Oh, hello. It's the Mike Graham Show. They caught me by surprise there. I was just told we were going a bit late, and then turns out we went a bit early. Never mind. Pooch is always playing tricks on me like that. Very good morning to you. It is the Mike Graham Show. It's 7 o'clock. It's Thursday, the 15th of January, right smack bang in the middle of the first month of 2026. And my goodness me, have we got some big stories for you this morning, including the front pages, which have got a lot of coverage this morning of the West Midlands police chief, of course, a man by the name of Craig Guilford, who apparently thinks he's been a bit hard done by, and he doesn't want to resign, and he doesn't want to leave his job, even though he's admitted making up evidence, lying to Parliament, and basically giving in to a Muslim mob, whereby he then dictated to Israeli fans, Jewish fans, they couldn't come to Birmingham to watch a football match because they might get beaten up, killed or worse. Absolutely extraordinary stuff. Shameless is what it says on the front page of the Daily Mail. We'll tell you more about that as well. We've also got William Yarwood here from the Taxpayers Alliance. William, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
Great to see you. We'll be talking to him about the big front page story on the Daily Telegraph, which has also got some input from the Taxpayers Alliance, where it turns out 4 million... Of course, comes as Keir Starmer, the man who likes to crush democracy beneath his feet and is quickly getting the reputation of Kim Jong Starmer, basically wants to say, you don't need to have any elections anymore. We could just put your local councillors in for 7 years and you won't have any say as to whether or not they get kicked out, or you won't have any say in what they do either. And 4 million is an interesting number because by a complete and utter coincidence, we have just surpassed 4 million views on this channel, which is an incredible achievement in such a short period of time. I would like to thank all of you for the incredible loyalty that you've shown to me and the incredible support you've shown to this particular channel, the Mike Graham Show. And it's been an incredible week and a half so far, and that's all we've done. But 4 million views, absolutely extraordinary stuff. Lots of you on the YouTube channel commenting, thank you very much indeed. On the Substack, if you're watching on Substack, we can't get your comments on there yet, but you can watch it ad-free, and that's the mikegrahamshow.com. So do keep sending your messages in. We haven't got a poll today, but maybe we should have a poll today, so maybe you should suggest a poll that we could do. We don't want to make it too serious, obviously. Other stories to talk about. Ed Miliband has now got £1.8 billion of your money to spend on some new wind farms that he wants to put up around the country. Offshore wind farms, no less, which don't work at all. Sting, from the police, it turns out, has been doing the dirty on his two bandmates, and he didn't pay them in excess of £1 million for their part in coming up with songs for the police. And you know why? Because he said the contract he had with them only covered records and CDs and didn't cover live streaming. Absolutely extraordinary. We're going to talk about the Bayeux Tapestry as well, because that's the subject of some controversy. They're bringing it here to put it up in the British Museum. Nobody knows why, but it could disintegrate on the way. What a completely and utterly ridiculous idea. So, we've got lots to do, lots to talk to you about. William, let's kick off, shall we, with the front page of the Telegraph.
Absolutely.
And there's 4 million people who have been denied their own democracy in their own country, denied a vote. I mean, I've been saying this for a long time, and I've been trying to get, and I even had Professor Curtis, you know, up in Strathclyde University, the chief psephologist, the man that knows everything there is to know about the voting system. And I said to him, exactly why are they doing this consolidation? Exactly why are they changing local authorities? And why does that mean that we can't actually have elections? And even he couldn't really explain it.
Yeah, so the argument basically is that, ironically, the word they use is they believe there's a two-tiered local system, which is highly ironic for Labour to say, right? Ironic. And they believe that basically making things into unitary authorities has the ability to make local authorities more efficient and more cost effective. Right. Now, there's arguments to say that in some areas that might be the case, but there's in other areas it won't at all, because there's historical reasons why certain local, smaller district councils exist, and they're able to better preside over their areas. However, local government reorganisation should not mean that elections are just cancelled outright, because that's just giving councillors, of all political parties, by the way, Mike, this is not just unique to Labour, because the Tories are, and Lib Dems are involved in this as well. What it means basically is that local people who have should have had the right to vote 2 years ago are now being denied to kick out their local councillors over, you know, things like council tax issues, or their bins are not being collected, or these guys
or potholes being
filled.
I think it's National Pothole Day today, by the way. So
and it is indeed Happy National Pothole Day. And these guys are being, you know, just continuing to rake in more money from local council taxpayers without having to go to a vote. And the question I have, Mike, is how long do they think they're going to be able to push this back for? Because 2 years is actually quite a long time, but when are people going to start to snap and say, actually, I want to vote now because I hate my local council, I hate my local council bosses, and they need to go. But I know Reform's throwing an illegal challenge.
On Thursday,
now.
they're going to I call for a judicial review, I believe.
But whether that achieves anything.
Well, this is the trouble with this government, isn't it? I mean, everything that people seem to throw at them, they just sort of bat away and come up with some other reason why it can't be done. Because I think certainly 27 local council elections are now going to be in jeopardy, and they're not going to have elections come May. All of those councils are probably councils that would lose to Reform. So it begins to look like everyone's ganging up on Reform to begin with. And the original idea for the postponement, as you say, was to postpone for 1 year from last year to this year.
Yeah.
But some of these councils now apparently will have meant that if they don't have an election this year and they don't have it for another 3, they won't have had an election for 7 years.
Yeah, I know.
It's outrageous.
Yeah, it's completely outrageous. And like I said, it's just not fair to local people who, whatever people might say about local elections, and I get that people say that it's a referendum on the central government, but there's lots of people who actually pay attention to the local area and really care about, their bins, their potholes, whether they're, simple things, Mike, like, is the grass being cut? Is my area being cleaned up? Is graffiti being taken off the walls? And they have the right to take those councillors out of their seats and say, no, I want someone in Bellerin who's able to actually fulfil my priorities.
Or in some cases as well, where the council is spending ludicrous amounts of money on either net zero,
EDI,
all sorts of diversity and inclusion policies and all the rest of it. More than 20 councils have confirmed delays here, 3/4 of which are Labour run. 7 more Labour councils are expected to join them, leaving a total of 3.7 million people disenfranchised. Leading constitutional experts are saying the law needs to be changed because apparently it's an old law that they're using, the 2000 Local Government Act, which gives ministers the power to delay votes. It says here that constitutional experts say there's a clear conflict of interest in giving politicians the power to decide whether voters should have a chance to vote them out. It's madness, isn't it?
Yeah, and we at the Taxpayers Alliance commented in this Telegraph story and said the exact same thing. We said the law needs to be changed so elections can't be cancelled for political convenience.
Yeah.
And the argument is that, this is going to take time, we need to make sure all things in place. Well, okay, a year, 6 to 8 months, a year, I can understand that, okay, but 2 years now we're getting to a silly territory where now it just looks like this is political and nothing to do with the local government reorganisation.
Well, I mean, knowing the Labour government as we do and knowing Keir Starmer as we do, and we'll get on to him in a minute because we had Prime Minister's questions yesterday, which he made a very off-colour remark about the Kama Sutra and anything to do with the Kama Sutra and Keir Starmer, I really don't want to think about before breakfast. Thank you very much indeed. But particularly when he was trying to be sort of, all holier than thou about X and grok and images of women and children, and he makes some joke about the Kama Sutra. I mean, the guy's clearly brain dead. But yeah, I mean, the idea that everything that they do is political. There is not one inch of this Labour government or its raison d'etre which does not include trying to, put down their opponents, trying to make it impossible for their opponents to win anything legally or fairly, and every sort of pitch that they can queer, they will queer.
Yeah, totally. And to go back to the point you made about the political point is, let's take digital ID.
Yeah.
Digital ID is sold as this, it's a convenient way to stop illegal migration. To hell is it going to stop illegal migration? Illegal migrants don't have papers anyway. Right. The problem is the borders, not the fact that they don't have birth certificates and passports. Right. And the argument they make is, it will make public services more efficient. I mean, there was a Labour MP on Politics Live yesterday who compared the HMRC app to digital ID and said, this is how we streamline public sector.
Don't
public
talk to me about the HMRC app. I mean, I had another go yesterday. It's 2 goes I've had now trying to get into my own HMRC account, which I can't do because they've made it impossible.
But that's the whole point. But Mike, they're streamlining, the way you access public services. Don't you feel better? Don't you feel more connected?
Well, I would if I could get connected, but the trouble is I can't. It won't let me in. But
But this is the point, right? It's like the argument in favour of digital ID, which is, I think now, because Keir Starmer's been in favour of it, means that the public now hates it, which is brilliant.
I know, fantastic.
But the argument that I would make is that actually I think this is just purely political because it's in Keir Starmer's sort of socialist idea that he believes in control, he believes in the power of the state, and obviously they wanted to make it mandatory. There's a decent amount of celebration that they're not going to make it mandatory, but I'd say, folks, let's hold fire.
Yes.
Because it's still going to come in and it's still going to cost upwards of £1 billion.
The idea that anything like that is made in some way mandatory, it puts a shiver down your spine because it means, what are you going to have? The Stasi turning up, the digital ID Stasi going, where's your digital ID? If you haven't got one, we're going to give you an on-the-spot fine. We're going to march you to the nearest cash machine and make you pay some kind of penalty for not having any digital ID.
Yeah.
The whole thing is riven with this control freakery industry
Yes.
that this government seems to be obsessed with. You
Yeah.
know, they want to control how fast you drive. They want to control how much sugar you eat. They
Yes.
want to control how much you drink. You see, they're now watering down drinks in
I know.
pubs. What the hell's that all
Because
about?
they know better than you, Mike. They know better than you, and you.
I mean,
you know,
surely if people want to get drunk, they're just going to drink more alcohol, aren't
Precisely,
they?
precisely.
You know, they've weakened it from 3.8 to 3.4. Right, well, you better give me 5 of them then instead of 4. You know, what's the point?
well, also, what's it called? Banning kids from social media, but then allowing them to vote at that
Yeah.
age. That makes absolutely no sense at all. It's
Well,
like,
there's not going to be much point in them sort of campaigning and sending out promotional material on social media for the kids to vote on because they won't be able to read it. You know, the whole thing doesn't make any sense. It's like some kind of madness.
And the banning, what's it called, alcoholic drinks for 16-year-olds as well. So they're banning drinks that are not alcoholic for 16-year-olds who aren't allowed to drink. Who aren't allowed to drink anyway. It just makes you wonder what they do in Number 10 or what they do in these government departments. Do you reckon they just sit around in a big corner and go like, let's come up with this mental idea we possibly can and see how we feel about it, and then like 3 months later it comes out and goes, actually no, this is really unpopular. We're going to U-turn, which seems like what every single policy this Labour government has done has been.
Well, look at this. I mean, I'm reading another story in the Telegraph today about the rise in business rates for country pubs. The Bertie Arms in Uffington, Lincolnshire, is going to face financial ruin because it's getting a 2,000% rise in its business rates valuation, thanks to Rachel Thieves, Richard III. Well done to her. Katie and James Jennifer, the landlords, say the change will wipe out the profits of their village pub, which is a Grade 2 listed thatched building. They're going to have to pay £17,000 in tax from 2029, which eats up every single penny of their profit. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable, and it's why I laugh when I hear Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer and the business secretary going on TV and saying we're backing Britain's pub industry, we really, really care. And I remember everyone all the Labour MPs in the first budget were thrilled by this 1p cut in beer duty, and then they go and hike employers' national insurance, which means that cut in beer duty is virtually irrelevant to the average pub owner. But yeah, look, you know, they talk about growth, they talk about supporting local businesses, but everything they do is the exact opposite, which is just squeezing and squeezing these people for as much money as possible so they can spend it on their own personal projects, like lifting the two-child benefit cap, you know, uprating PIP and universal credit, essentially just giving money to their own voters, essentially.
I know, astonishing. We've got a Plank of the Day nominee today who's a guy who's an illegal migrant who's living in a retirement home with his wife and 9 kids.
What?
And he didn't know he was not supposed to do that because he doesn't speak very good English. And you kind of go, sorry, we'll bring you that in a minute. A couple of super chats for you. Laura Jane says, my 4-year-old son would make a better Prime Minister than Keir Starmer. Starmer is a rat, says Steve. These are super chats, by the way. Can't stand the bell end. I think I can say that on this station. And I've got this from Stuart, who sends it in overnight. Can you please give a shout out to my 11-year-old son, Fraser? He watches your show here with me in Edmonton in Canada. He thinks you're funny when you call people a plank. He now uses it at school. Top boy. Excellent. And this one here, I'm not sure about this. Maybe you can help me, William, with it. It says, what's your view, Curtis Yarvin, neo-monarchism and his intellectual political influence, Thomas Carlyle?
That's a bit heavy for that's a bit heavy for this time in the morning.
Yeah.
I'm aware of Curtis Yarvin, and I've read a bit of Thomas Carlyle as well, but they're very like hardcore monarchist, paternalistic type, conservative types from the... Well, Curtis Yarvin is a political blogger from the mid-2000s and has lots of good takes. Actually, if you've ever heard the term red pill or blue pill, I know that came from The Matrix, but he actually introduced that into political discourse.
Oh, did he? Right.
Yeah, so that's
because you do hear that phrase red-pilled. And
that's where it came from.
Absolutely right. Steve says, I used to live in Uffington. It's a beautiful thatched pub. I hope it doesn't shut. What is the trouble? Pubs will be shutting because they can't stay open as long as they're getting punished punitively by this government, who think that basically if you make any money at all, you just give it all to them in tax. I mean, they literally do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another Labour, one of those awful Labour videos out doing the rounds where, you know, Starmer's talking about turning corners and you'll be feeling better off when your pay packet is changed. It's disappeared. It's shrunk into nothing, you complete plonker. Keir Starmer looks like he'd apologise to a door after walking into it and then commission a review on why it happened. Have a great show. Well, actually, funnily enough, you know, one of the things that Starmer is said to be is very rude. Because Deanna Davison, you might remember, used to be a Tory MP, and I became quite good friends with her, and she used to come on my show. And she said to me, one of the things that she noticed about Keir Starmer was that he was really kind of, you know, ideologically horrible to anyone who he didn't agree with. So she said whenever she would be in the Houses of Parliament and she would hold open a door for him if he was walking towards her with his, various apparatchiks around him, he would literally walk through the open door without acknowledging her, without saying thank you, without even looking at her, right? And she said even Jeremy Corbyn, who was about as opposed to anything that she believed in as could be, was polite and would say, thank you very much indeed. Nice to see you, Deanna. How are you? But Starmer, he's such an automaton. He's such a robot that he's just unpleasant, I think, as
absolutely.
a general rule. And let's have a look at what he said yesterday, because I think people were really shocked by this. This was Prime Minister's questions, where once again, Kemi Badenoch actually made quite a good fist of having a go at him. But this was entirely inappropriate at a time when he massively had a go at reform about, how they were siding with Elon Musk over X and over Grok and over these, sexualised images that he's trying to get them to stop doing. Have a look at this.
From the party that used to recognise the challenge of climate change, and now they run from it, who promised to cut immigration, but then lost control of it, who once took great pride in our diversity, now they talk of deporting our neighbours to achieve cultural coherence. And Mr. Speaker, on consistency, don't get me started on 5 Prime Ministers, 6 Chancellors, 8 Home Secretaries, 16 Housing Ministers. They had more positions in 14 years than the Kama Sutra. No wonder they're knackered and they left the country screwed.
I mean, that is not prime ministerial language. No wonder they're knackered and they've left the country screwed. I mean, what the hell is he thinking? And Lammy sitting behind him on his right shoulder, sort of chortling away like a sort of, laughing hyena, looking totally inappropriate and ridiculous. I mean, and a lot of people were very critical of that yesterday after Prime Minister question. They said, this is not parliamentary language. It's not the way Prime Minister should be conducting himself. And particularly when he's trying to be all holier than thou about, sexual imagery.
Yeah. Well, also, as I said to you last week, Mike, by the way, Mike, I kind of love coming in on Thursday. I feel like it's an excuse for me just to complain about PMQs the previous day, which I find very cathartic.
Yes,
so I appreciate you for that.
Yes, not at all.
But I watched it again. I watched it yesterday, and once again, Keir Starmer is trying to be funny. He's failing miserably at that.
Well, he has no sense of humour.
No sense of humour. Well, because he's got no thoughts and jokes in his head anyway.
He wouldn't, isn't he?
He reads it off a script.
I mean, here's one from What Conspiracy Theory, a super chat. What Starmer's political influence, Dipsy, Lala or Poe? Very possibly one of the Teletubbies, exactly right. Actually, what's his face? Old Lammy would look quite good as a Teletubby.
He would. Which one would he be?
He's about the right shape. Absolutely. Starmer is Trilateral Commission Davos bosses, says Mayday. And Veronica says £7 for a glass of house wine. Cheap drink as much as you can. Here in South London, it's 11 quid. I mean, the amount of money you have to pay now for a glass of wine in a pub, particularly in London, is absolutely ridiculous. Canastria says, as of 2024, the number of pubs has declined to 45,000 from 60,800, according to the latest data from the British Beer and Pub Association. And that is really bad news, isn't it? Absolutely ridiculous. Let's talk a bit about the West Midlands Police Chief, because he is now still very much front and centre of the papers. The Times go, Fanrail Police Chief won't quit. Head of West Midlands Force lawyering up, which is a very American term. I don't like that.
I don't like that either.
I don't like that. After Home Secretary calls for resignation over decision to ban Israeli supporters. Shameless, it says on the front page of the Daily Mail. The scathing report condemns West Midlands Police's lies over its decision to ban Israeli football fans. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood has declared that she's lost confidence in it. But apparently, he's refusing to quit, saying that he doesn't think he's been treated fairly. The local Labour Crime Commissioner, who I know you've got something to say about, refuses to sack him. And apparently the Home Secretary can't sack him.
No, the Home Secretary can't sack him because of a piece of legislation passed by the Conservatives. So the Police and Crime Commissioner has the ability to fire the chief, but won't, because the Police and Crime Commissioner, folks, was a Corbyn supporter, was a huge Corbyn supporter back in the day, and believes that this poor guy has just been the victim of a witch hunt. Also, let's just, I'm here from the Taxpayers Alliance, it'd be remiss if I didn't mention his total salary. Let's remember that Craig Guilford, folks, this is the head of the West Midlands Police, had a total remuneration package. This is bonuses, this is salary, this is pension contributions of 288 grand.
Goodness gracious
And the salary in that, Mike, was 215 grand.
I mean, that's criminal, if you'll pardon the expression. Right? I mean, that is absolutely ridiculous. Let's have a look at what Shabana Mahmood had to say in Parliament yesterday, because we've been waiting for a statement from her, and they'd sort of heavily flagged it. This is what they now do, isn't it, in Labour parlance. They basically say, we expect Shabana Mahmood to issue a no-confidence statement in Craig Guilford. Let's have a look at what she said.
I know better than most that West Midlands police officers do their duty bravely day in and day out. But what is clear from this report is that on an issue of huge significance to the Jewish community in this country and to us all, we have witnessed a failure of leadership that has harmed the reputation and eroded public confidence in West Midlands Police and policing more broadly. The Chief Constable of the force, Craig Guilford, should have ensured more professional and thorough work was done. As Sir Andy himself says, the shortcomings detailed in his report are, and I quote, symptomatic of a force not applying this necessary strategic oversight and not paying enough attention to important matters of detail, including at the most senior levels. The ultimate responsibility for the force's failure to discharge its duties on a matter of such national importance rests with the Chief Constable. And it is for that reason that I must declare today that the Chief Constable of West Midlands Police no longer has my confidence. It has been, as I understand it, over 20 years since a Home Secretary last made such a statement. But on the evidence provided by Sir Andy Cook, the Chief Inspector of Policing, that is now the case.
Shabana Mahmood there. By the way, a bit of a time check for you. 7:21 in the morning it is on Thursday, the 15th of January. It's actually my son's birthday today, so I should say a very happy birthday to my son Christopher, who's 19 today. We're going out for dinner a little bit later on, so that should be fun. So if he's listening, you might be listening, might be up at this point, off to work. A very, very happy birthday. Many happy returns. Lots of you have got things to say. Tess Abroad says, he is unhinged. Cheesecake says, Starmer Sutra. Yeah, Starmer is screwing this country, says Anthony. And Hobo says, unbelievable that Starmer mentioned the Kama Sutra and being screwed when he was talking about X and Grok. It is extraordinary, isn't it? That Kama Sutra comment is right up there with dog whistle, says Good Perry. And Starmer's voice, how bad must it have been if this is it after voice training, says Steve. Famously, the voice trainer came on Christmas Eve during COVID, do you remember? But yeah, so a lot of people say that this guy, Craig Guilford, should just leave and just resign. But, you know, presumably the phrase lawyering up means that he's looking for a massive payoff before he goes.
It sounds like he's looking for a severance package, basically. And this is the problem, is I actually do think that the Home Secretary should have the right to hire and fire police chiefs, right?
Absolutely.
Because otherwise, what's the point of the Home Secretary? But like I said, this is because of a piece of legislation passed by the Conservative government which helped create police and crime commissioners. And we at the Taxpayers Alliance for years have questioned basically whether the police and crime commissioners are worth the money we actually get for them.
Right.
And to
but what do they actually do?
Yeah, that's the thing. No one's able to really know. I mean, they're elected political officials, right? So they belong to political parties.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to like oversee local crime. They're supposed to oversee their local force. But a lot of people in the country will think, well, has crime in my area got any better since the introduction of police and crime commissioners?
Yeah.
And I bet most people would probably say no, especially when, you know, they're on relatively decent salaries and remuneration packages. Yeah. And I will give this one bit of credit to Mahmood. She did announce towards the end of last year that she wants to get rid of them entirely and put that money towards mainstream police force. Yeah. I think that's quite a good idea, and the faster she does it, the faster she can get rid of this guy.
Also, I imagine she's quite happy to be standing up in Parliament talking about something other than migration.
Yes.
Because she hasn't got a handle on that at all. And many people say in the parliamentary world that she's quite a substantial individual. She's quite a good politician, that she might be somebody who would be a leader, future leader of the Labour Party. But I'm afraid, I mean, you have to look at her record, certainly when it comes to immigration.
Yes, it's not great.
And it's terrible. She hasn't stopped the boats. She hasn't deported people. She hasn't, you know, detained people. They keep saying they're doing it, but they're not really. And we are, if anything, worse off now under her stewardship of the Home Office than we were when Yvette Cooper was running it.
Well, look, Mike, also you've got to look back at what she said when she was a Labour backbencher, right? She advocated for all amnesty for illegal migrants. She went on every pro-Palestine rally she possibly could do. You know, people, like I said, I praised Mahmood earlier, and there is, when she first came into the Home Office, I didn't really have any faith, and I still don't have much faith she's going to actually do things. Yeah. But there is a change in the way she speaks and the way even she looked when she did an interview a while back. I think she's got Home Office derangement syndrome, which is basically what all Home Secretaries get after being there for too long, because they realise how much of a mess that department is, because they're unable to control immigration, deal with crime. You know, obviously they deal with the intelligence services as well, right? Yes. So it's not.
And I presume they come up against all sorts of, you know, immovable objects. Yes. You know, so they'll call some, you know, chief civil servant in, and it'll be like a scene from Yes Minister, won't it?
Yeah.
Where they go, right, this is what we'd like to do, and they go, well, I'm afraid you can't do that.
Sorry, Minister, I apologise.
Well, what can I do? Well,
Yeah.
we could do this. Well, that's not what I want to do, though.
Yeah.
And you end up sort of compromising to such an extent that nothing that was in the manifesto or that was in the plan ever gets done.
And they lose control of the department in the sense that basically the policies they put through are often challenged by, charities and local and migration groups, and then they find out that, oh, why is this charity challenging my migration policy? And then
Yes.
it gets revealed that, oh, they've received funding from the Home Office.
Right.
So there are multiple occasions where during the last Conservative government there was legal challenges from migration charities to the Rwanda scheme, and it was revealed actually mostly in the Telegraph about how groups such as Migrant Help and Refugee Action and other groups like that were getting given money by the Home Office and therefore by taxpayers,
Yes.
which makes absolutely no sense. But the Home Secretary obviously had no idea about this, meaning that this department, I think, actually is too big. And I think there is a very, very good argument for splitting up the Home Office into
Totally.
a police and security department and a border security department.
It's a kind of homeland security idea, isn't it? A bit like the Americans
Yeah.
do, where you've actually got a dedicated force who are supposed to just do one thing and one thing only,
Yeah.
and that's to patrol and protect the borders.
Absolutely.
Because that's what we don't currently have.
No.
I mean, interestingly enough, there's a couple of other stories that we'll come back to on Shabana Mahmood, but you were talking about, sort of spy services, MI6, MI5 and all that. Amazing story to Telegraph. They've been brilliant on the super embassy that's being built or is about to be built, and permission is about to be given by Keir Starmer just before he goes to China, right?
Yes.
Because the government apparently are quite happy for this super embassy to be built with 208 subterranean rooms which could be used for anything from torture to spying to
great.
cutting into high fiber communications technology. But in a very British turn, it turns out that the thing might be stopped from being built by a residents group in the area who have complained apparently and could tie it up for years because they don't want it built on the grounds that they don't want their area changed.
Absolutely, this is the first time I'm going to say this, but God bless British NIMBYs.
Yes.
Good for them.
Absolutely.
I don't want a Chinese super embassy in my backyard, but you know what, Mike? Every time I've had a conversation with somebody about the Chinese embassy, nobody's able to tell me what we're actually getting for it.
Right.
What are we getting for it? We're paying for it, basically, and we're allowing, this to be I think the biggest embassy that the Chinese have across the world, anywhere.
Yeah, right.
It's like, why is it in Britain specifically? And what was the logic behind giving permission to the Chinese government for this, considering our rhetoric on China swings between, oh, they're okay to we don't hate them.
Right.
I'm not a fan of the Chinese government either, but if I'm not a fan of the Chinese government, the last thing I want to do is give them a super embassy, right? So I'm never able to get an answer out of people of what we're getting from this. And I actually don't think either the last Conservative government or this Labour government has given us an answer to that question either.
No, absolutely right. I actually heard an argument the other day, listening to another show, which was quite staggering, and this was coming from a sort of security expert who said, well, the thing is, China have got all these buildings in London, which are embassies and consulates and all the rest of it, and it's quite a lot to keep an eye on, so it's better if they're all in one place, in the super embassy, and then we could keep an eye on them without having to sort of travel half the way around the city. It's complete bonkers politics.
Yeah, but also that's not a good argument. It's like, oh, well, we'd like to put them all in one place so we can monitor them. Well, it's like, well, the fact that you're having to monitor them in the first place should raise red flags, right?
Exactly right. Incredible. It's coming up to 7:28. William Yarwood is here with us from Taxpayers Alliance. Look at the papers. This from Shivs. I'm sick of all the politicians in the House of Commons laughing and joking while the country's going to hell in a handcart. I know, absolutely right. In my opinion, PMQs is a joke, says Amanda. I thought I'd tuned into a bad stand-up act, not the Prime Minister, and the Speaker really should make sure questions are answered. That's one of the things that people complain about all the time, is that the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, who's when he's not flying around the world on missions to spread democracy, he doesn't really do his job very well, does he?
No, I remember when I think I was actually a bit on your show when you were back at Talk about this, and we did a sort of Just Stop Hoyle.
Yes.
We did Just Stop Hoyle.
Yes, Just Stop Hoyle.
Because we commented, I think, in the Mail a few times about how he'd just been seen jet setting across the world. To his credit, apparently he has really cracked down on that, because the Mail and the Telegraph were going after him so much that he actually cracked down.
He got very upset.
He got very upset by it.
The one he used to send really, really nasty letters in to talk to complain
really?
about the fact that they were having to go at him. Because he's a very pompous guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is very full of himself.
But yeah,
he should be saying to Keir Starmer, one, answer the bleeding question. It's Prime Minister's question. You're supposed to be giving an answer instead of obfuscating and just avoiding giving an answer. And also, by the way, stop making statements like the Kama Sutra one in rather bad taste.
Yeah.
When you're supposed to be trying to show that we're a decent, upstanding, government which cares about the sexualisation of society.
Yeah.
And
also stop using unparliamentary language, which you would have complained about the previous Conservative government using when they were in government.
Exactly right.
He would have grandstanded and said, "Oh, Mr. Speaker, this is so unparliamentary." I mean, I can't quite do his voice,
it's not bad.
It's not bad. I got there almost.
Sometimes you just have to make a noise.
Yeah, you just have to hold your pinch your nose and go, "Oh, Mr. Speaker." But also, maybe also the Speaker should make him rein in on some of his party politics talking points, actually, because he spends his entire time talking about 14 years of Conservative government, blah, blah, blah. And look, I've got many criticisms of the last Conservative government on tax, on debt, on immigration, the works.
Yes.
But you know what? Keir Starmer's been in power over a year now. I don't think he can stand there anymore. I mean, what is it going to be? We're going to be there in 2029, Mike, and he's still going to be stood at the dispatch box complaining about the last 14 years of Conservative government.
Totally.
I mean, it's pretty pathetic. This guy should actually answer the questions that Kemi gives him, and Kemi doesn't give him, I think, particularly hard questions, actually. She says, yes or no, what does the Prime Minister think of this? Could the Prime Minister, clarify this position?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, maybe she should clarify her own position, and maybe she should do this, and would the honourable member for Clacton, and it's, honestly, I said this last week, and I'll say it again, I can't stand PMQs. I think that Labour backbench MPs need to be banned from being able to ask Labour HQ questions, because actually, Mike, I know we are banging on about PMQs, but a backbench Labour MP just directly lied yesterday when he was talking about Farage in Ukraine. Because he said, Nigel Farage doesn't want boots on the ground in Ukraine in a part of a peace deal because he's Russia's puppet. Not what Farage said.
Ridiculous.
Not what Farage said. Farage said he's concerned about the idea because he doesn't think there's enough money in the military to allow that to support in the future.
According to the Ministry of Defence, there's a £28 billion shortfall.
Exactly. And he was on Times Radio and asked, would you consider supporting it if it meant that the military was actually well funded? And he was like, yeah, I can see that being an option.
Yeah.
Right. It was more nuanced than just I'm against it or I'm pro it.
But this is the trouble. You've got Keir
Starmer
Starmer now who just fires out these kind of bullet points and keeps repeating them because he thinks that's what will make people remember that Nigel Farage is pro-Putin, which nobody's buying, by the way, because it's totally ridiculous. A couple of other quick ones to mention to you. Funny one in The Sun, apparently about the price of World Cup tickets over in the United States of America. England fans have staged a World Cup rebellion by rejecting thousands of tickets being sold for sky-high prices from FIFA and the FIFA Fat Cats. Apparently only 600 England fans have bought tickets.
Wow.
That's pretty small.
That's really, really small.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not a massive follower of football, I'll admit. So, I don't ever go to football games. I'm much more of a rugby guy. But when it comes to something like the World Cup, where it drives in so much, lots of national pride. There's lots of spending around it. It boosts the economy significantly. I mean, it's
football tournaments are generally good for the economy.
Yeah, they are really
even
good
if they're held elsewhere, because people will go to the pub, people will go to sort of fan zones to watch it. These fans have bought tickets for £45 apparently, but some of the tickets, which are allocated to England fans, 30,000 members, £3,129, £6,489. I mean, that's for one ticket.
That's crazy. And also, it's going to the United States for World Cup is also quite a nice destination to go, right? I mean, Trump will make a big deal out of it.
He will.
He's going to make a huge deal about it. He's like, this is going to be the greatest World Cup we've ever had, folks. The greatest, believe me.
I didn't realise you were such a good impressionist.
I don't know. Well, my last name is Yarwood. My last name is Yarwood, Mike.
That's that's true. Yeah, no relation, right? That's one for the teenagers there to remember. And how about this? This is one of the strangest stories of the day, and I was listening to this on the way in this morning. David Hockney, world-renowned artist, brilliant man, who now apparently lives in France. Who can blame him? Has moved away from this country. He lives quite near Bayeux, over there in Normandy, where the Bayeux Tapestry is being held. We, for some reason, have decided to bring the Bayeux Tapestry to the British Museum, insure it for the cost of 800 million quid. Thanks very much indeed. And move this thing, which is from like the 11th century, right? Which is apparently in grave danger of breaking up if it gets jiggled about I mean, I know that's not a technical phrase, but basically any vibration that will move it something like 2 millimeters is likely to destroy it. And David Hockley's written a piece in Independent today saying basically rolling, unrolling or hanging it in a new way can cause tearing, stitch loss and distortion of the fabric. Uneven tension is causing structural strain. Even minor mishandling could cause irrevocable damage. And so he just says it's madness to consider gambling and moving this thing.
So what is the point in doing it then? What clever official decided that this was a phenomenal idea?
I'm assuming the British Museum will see it as some kind of cash cow, because it'll be like every one of these big special exhibitions that they do. Loads of people will pay money to go and see it. But to be honest, I mean, it's in Bayeux. If you want to go and see it, go to bloody France and see it.
But also, how can it be a cash cow if it disintegrates on the way here?
That's
you'd have an empty box. Oh, this is where it would have been.
Yeah, you can imagine. It'd be like one of those scenes from Raiders of the Lost Ark. They open the box up.
There's nothing here.
Here it is, the Bayeux dust bowl.
And there's just a picture. This is what it used to look
and
like.
Apparently, there is also a replica of the Bayeux tapestry in Portsmouth. So you can go and have a look at that if you want, and that won't cost you anything. The other weird thing about the Bayeux tapestry, and I don't know whether you know this, but apparently it's got a very heavy number of penises in it.
Oh.
I don't know why, but apparently the guy who created it was obsessed with the male member.
Right.
And so if you look very carefully, and I haven't actually, I must confess, but I read this piece a while ago, there's a sort of surfeit of male genitalia in it. I don't know whether you can see it, but yeah. I went to Bayeux actually a couple of years ago, and my kids and their mother went and looked at the tapestry, and I walked the dog.
No, yeah, you just weren't interested.
Yeah, I found it far more edifying.
Well, if they bring that here, Ofcom might ban it anyway, so...
They probably will, yeah, absolutely right.
Can't have this on TV.
And one quick one to finish before we go to Edward Hughes with the news, because he's itching to get to the news today. This is in the Guardian, a couple of other papers, and nobody's really making anything of it. These 7 Palestinian Action prisoners who have been on hunger strike.
Oh, yes.
Now, apparently they've stopped their hunger strike.
They're not very good at it.
They're not. But the reason they've stopped their hunger strike is because basically the government has kowtowed to what they wanted. So the government have decided not to award a £2 billion contract to Israeli arms firm subsidiary Elbit Systems UK. Now, this has kind of gone beneath the radar. So effectively, these bozos from Palestine Action have actually got what they wanted.
Yeah, and I mean, well, they got what they wanted, but also they didn't really do a proper hunger strike, did they? Because I think one of them went out of jail to go home for Christmas to have Christmas dinner and stuff, and then came back in. You know, I remember back when hunger strikers were proper hunger strikers, right? And they actually died of hunger. Not these part timers. This is amateur stuff, really. But look, this is
that joke, wasn't there? We'll never forget you, Jimmy Sands.
But look, Thatcher didn't give in to the IRA mob when they did this, and Keir Starmer has just seemingly caved in pretty much to these guys. But of course, the real thing they want is the re-legalisation of Palestine Action, who, let's remind you folks, invaded a British military base, attempted to destroy equipment, and also assaulted various members of the military. So yes, actually, it is a terrorist organisation, and if you do support it, you should be actually in prison.
Absolutely. Ridiculous. Shocking story. Anyway, William Yarwood, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed, with your impersonations as well. We haven't touched on Sting. He's owed his police bandmates £500,000 each. He's paid them off again. Cheryl has a stalker nicked again. That's on the front page of The Sun. Cheryl Tweedy, of course. I can't remember what her last name is. It keeps changing with different people that she marries. There's still no water after 5 days in parts of Kent and Sussex, and South East Water is still basically in deep doo-doo with that. Lots of other stories to talk about, including Ed Miliband and his new plan to spend billions and billions and billions of pounds of taxpayers' money basically putting up new wind farms, offshore, onshore, whatever you like. Absolutely ridiculous. We'll talk a bit about Iran as well. Kelvin McKenzie coming up in a little while. We'll also have Plank of the Day for you. As I say, thanks very much indeed to William for popping in. Keep your messages coming. Not too many complaints today, which is rather good. We won't have a pedant of the day unless somebody complains. Some of you are still banging on about the sound, but the sound apparently seems to be perfect. And we have got a new addition in the studio. If you've noticed it, you may not have, but those of you who are eagle-eyed will spot it. I'm Mike Graham. This is the Mike Graham Show. It's coming up to 7:38. Let's get the news with Edward Hughes.
Good morning. Here are your UK news headlines for Thursday, January 15th, 2026. A quick 1-minute roundup. The big economic story, November 2025. GDP figures are released today, with economists expecting to confirm the UK economy continued to contract late last year. My 5-year-old nephew could have told you that. This comes amid warnings of further weakening in 2026. Despite easing inflation and recent Bank of England interest rate cuts, businesses report hiring slowdowns after the autumn budget's rising costs. Hey, Richard III, go and buy a bottle of olive oil for a tenner and tell me the economy isn't in dire straits. Sultans of swing. Weather-wise, brace for a wet and mild day across much of the country. Heavy rain is forecast for many areas, especially in the west and south, with highs around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in the south and milder than recent weeks. But take your umbrella, as downpours could lead to localised flooding. Shouldn't that be take your wellies? In politics, attention turns to ongoing fallout from the West Midlands police controversy over the Maccabi Tel Aviv fan ban, with the force apologising for errors and the Home Secretary expressing no confidence in the Chief Constable. And finally, the ongoing probe into social media giant X and its Grok AI tool continues, with Prime Minister Free-Gear Keir Starmer insisting the platform must fully comply with UK law on deepfakes and harmful content. I hope he gets Plank of the Century, let alone Plank of the Week, this Thursday on the Mike Graham Show at 7 p.m. I'll be tuning in with Mrs. Hughes. That's your headlines. Stay safe and dry out there. Back later, Tigers.
Yeah, Mrs. Hughes, very much looking forward to hearing from her because she's got some interesting things to give away about the private life of Mr. Edward Hughes, the man who reads the news. We've got lots of really, really great messages coming through. This from Diana. It says, "Hi Mike, it's Diana London. We used to chat regularly before. Keep telling it as it is. That's why you're best at, and that's why we all followed you to your wonderful new channel. Yes, the show feels and looks so good, so professional," says Stan. "Well done, Mike and team. The changes look so much better. Keep up the good work." And this one from Brian, who says, "Mike, according to Nick Timothy, who took the 2011 Police and Crime Bill through Parliament, there is provision in the bill for the Home Secretary to sack a Chief Constable. He stated it yesterday." Here's one from a pedant possibility from Andrew. "Mike, just some advice. Can you improve the reverberation within the room?" I'm not sure. We'll have to ask somebody who's a reverberation specialist. Shiv says this in the super chat: "I'm sick of all the politicians in the House of Commons laughing and joking while the country is going to hell in a handcart." Well, I can't say I blame you. "I cannot believe how many rural pubs here in Norfolk are closing. It's very sad. Hubs of the community," says WX Reedy. Well, do you know, one of the things that we've been told by our friends in hospitality, and we're going to be talking to Donald MacLeod up in Scotland later on today, who runs various different hospitality businesses, is that, you know, the pressure on hospitality has been so great that something like one pub a day is actually shutting down in this country, and nightclubs are shutting down, restaurants are shutting down. There's so many places now whose business rates are going to be going through the roof, more than 100% increase. One we just talked about in the Telegraph there, 2,000% increase in a pub in a village, which is simply not going to be able to survive. £17,000 is the tax they're going to be asked to pay, which completely wipes out all of their profit. It can't go on. Rachel Reeves hasn't got a bleeding clue. Tessa Broad says, "If the Prime Minister is so concerned about our children, why is he talking so vividly about sex? Kids are listening, and so is Elon Musk." Absolutely. David says, "Love the show, Mike. It's brilliant. You have nailed it." One from Paul, who says, "I'm a Lowestoft lad. I'm really sad to hear that. Some of the best pubs are in Norfolk and Suffolk. The Wherry Alton Broad is one of my favourites." And John says, "Starmer is giving Chagos to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and now possible control of London through their massive embassy. A bit concerned about what else he's going to give them when he's there." Well, that's exactly right. And Mark says, "Go to Marsh Wall near the Britannia Illegal Immigrants Hotel in Canary Wharf. You will see a long line of Chinese office workers going back and forth during the rush hour." That's an interesting one. What should we do? Should we have a look at Plank of the Day? Why not?
It's Plank of the Day time.
Planks this week. We've had Gary Neville. We've also had, I think, South East Water once again. Today, we're going to be giving it to a doctor. And we're going to give it to a doctor by the name of Asif Munaf, who was revealed by the Daily Telegraph to be selling same-day sick notes for 29 quid to anybody who came to him and asked for one. So basically, not only could you get off going to work, but you could get an official doctor's note, which would mean you could stay off work for probably weeks on end, just for £29. He was finally stripped of his licence to practice yesterday by the General Medical Council. He's 37 years old. He's a former contestant on BBC's show The Apprentice. He's already been suspended from the medical register once before after posting anti-Semitic content online last year. And so a medical practitioners tribunal service panel ruled on Monday that he was unfit to practice because he had posted discriminatory material on social media. He also risked patient safety by abandoning a shift that he was doing at a hospital within hours of his arrival without telling anyone. He's now had his licence to practice medicine permanently removed. This is known as erasure, which is no bad thing. He can no longer work as a doctor or call himself a registered medical practitioner. According to the General Medical Council, basically his actions indicated a deep-seated and ongoing attitudinal issue. The tribunal concluded that this is the most serious sanction and it was necessary in this case because of his dishonesty, his arrogant disregard for patients and colleagues and for the views of others and the regulator. He has shown a persistent lack of insight into the seriousness of the allegations against him and about his behaviour as well. He basically wrote on one of his outlets that anti-Semitic material on social media between October 23rd and July 25. He said that Jews were born with the inherent ability to deceive and were nasty, jealous, obnoxious rats. How the hell do these people get to work in the NHS? You've got to ask that question, haven't you? A Telegraph investigation previously revealed how Mr. Munaf was issuing fake fit notes through his company, Dr. Sick Limited. Not exactly hiding, is he, in plain sight? I mean, unbelievable. He would also ask patients to give him 45 quid for a standard medical note for anxiety. It would be signed by Dr. M.A. Manouf, and it would include his GMC number. I mean, when people say that we've got the greatest health service in the world, it employs scumbags like this. Thankfully, not anymore. So I'm afraid, Mr. Munaf, not doctor anymore, good riddance, get lost, and as I said before, don't let the door hit you on the arse on the way out. Thank you very much indeed. Plank of the day.
Hello, it's Plank of the Day time.
Now, I think it's more than time to talk to our first guest on the show after the paper review that we've had this morning, and it is, of course, the one and only Mr. Kelvin McKenzie. Kelvin, a very good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, hello there, Mike. How's it all going?
Yeah, it's going very well. I mean, once again, we awake to the news that this country has sunk further down the gurgler and is now not only undemocratic, but you can't even vote. 4 million people now going to be refused the right to vote in the local elections. Front page of the Daily Telegraph. Absolutely outrageous, isn't it?
Yes, and of course, the interesting aspect is, of course, most of them that have voted allegedly to save their constituents' money are those in Labour strongholds, which are almost certainly not going to become Labour strongholds when the voting does take place. They will become Reform strongholds, or even a kind of right of centre strongholds with mixtures of Conservatives and Reform. So it's been done basically not to save money, which is, of course, what Labour say, but of course it's been done actually to deny people the right to throw out a bunch of absolutely dreadful local politicians whose main role in life is to work out car parking charges, which nobody can afford. Although the reason we have car parks is because people want to go to work, especially in the southeast, where work is in London and you have to commute 25 and 30 miles a day, costing enormous amounts of money. And so what they say is, we are a local council, we have got you trapped. You have to park your car, and therefore we'll increase the prices every year and claim that it's all going to looking after old dears in hospitals. Yeah. It is absolutely scandalous. And actually, strangely, I once stood as an independent councillor on the car parking in the local area, on the anti-car park charges and policy, and unfortunately, I got defeated by the Conservatives, but I did manage to trouser 793 votes. And so I'm very grateful. If any of your viewers voted for me, thank you so much.
Yes, it is extraordinary, though, isn't it, how we now have this kind of construction of ridiculous kind of administration in every single aspect of our lives. You know, we've got Rachel Reeves this morning talking about how pubs must pay their fair share. Pubs are going to be shutting down because these business rates. We've got one business rate going up in a pub in the Shires, 2,000%, 17,000 quid. It's going to wipe them out.
And there's a lot of crap talked about community centres and stuff like that, turning libraries into community centres. Yeah. You could fire a cannon every half an hour through our local community hub, which we've just spent a fortune on, i.e. the library, right, and not kill anybody. Right? Yeah. People, if you want a book, by the way, go to your local charity shop where there are the most spectacular collection of books that people want to read and have read. Yeah. Right? Don't go to. So the truth about the matter is that they spend money in a way which nobody cares about and penalises areas where people do want to go. So pubs are a fantastic hub for people. There's one round our way called the Jolly Farmer.
Yeah.
If you go in there, say around about 4:30, and you go there till 7:30, 7:45, it is absolutely heaving, right? As everybody has a pint, chats with their mates. It's the place to meet. It is, how are you getting on? It's smaller families. It's fantastic, right? Funnily enough, you could actually turn the lights out at 7:45 or 8:00 or something, because everybody then goes, quotes, home for some dinner. Look, it's maybe a rather old-fashioned idea. I don't know that Weybridge in Surrey is particularly old-fashioned, but that is where our money should be invested. We don't need to penalise commercial operations to fund libraries where nobody is going, or if they do go there, they go there to read a free newspaper or operate a kind of old-fashioned desktop computer. You know, we have stopped. We've got to stop the idea of subsidising people and start the idea of actually trying to encourage commercial life in our country.
Yeah, but this is the problem with this entire government. And when they see somebody making money, they just want to take a piece of it. You know, every single piece of income that I now have is constantly being attacked by HMRC. You know, they're coming up with new ways of taxing you. Now they're going to tax business rates. They're going to put business rates up. Council tax is going up. You know, car tax is going up. Alcohol tax is going up. Everything's going up.
Well, I tell you, the most dangerous area, I think, probably for your viewers, will be that they've decided that housing is a previously untaxed area. So, honestly, it's everybody's big bet: buying a house and literally paying it off over 25 years, a fantastic form of saving. And if it goes up in value, that's mainly because there are more people in the country. And there are more people buying houses. So it's a supply and demand issue. We're a small country and we have a lot of people in it. Actually, I wish we had quite a few less people in it, to be absolutely honest. I have some particularly in mind. But they've now decided the housing is it. So they've started it off now at 2 million quid. I guarantee to you, let's hope to God this does not happen. But in 2029, if they were to get back in again, right, or even maybe included in the manifesto, that they drop the 2 million barrier where you'll start paying extra tax, right, but start taking it down to 1.8, 1.7, 1.5, and eventually, if you own a prefab in Blackpool, you'll end up paying tax on it. What they won't do, what this government will not do, and the Tories were as guilty. The Tories were as guilty. Right? What they won't do is say, we are going to reduce our spending.
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't they, for instance, with the NHS, why don't they say, I tell you what, we're going to do what they do in Ireland. You're going to pay 50 quid when you go and see your doctor. You're prepared to pay, I don't know, you're prepared to pay any amount of money to go to the movies. You want to go to the theatre, that costs you money. It costs you money to pay your car insurance. Why, the most important aspect of your life, aren't you prepared to invest in? And but what they do is they take the tax. They take the tax off you, but you don't know how that money's being spent. No. I've just been in Australia for a good period. And in Australia, on the high street, there are MRI shops, there are doctors' surgeries, there are this, there are that. You go in, you pay your money, and it's part of an insurance policy. What is wrong with that? And I'll tell you what's wrong with it. It's because socialists don't like the idea that you spend your money in your way. Yeah. You have to spend it in the manner in which they dictate. Anyway, that's...
Yeah, no, but that's, I mean, I've been a long time advocate of paying to go and see your GP, because apart from anything else, what it would do is it would take away those people who just go to the GP because they fancy going to the GP for a chat, or they fancy going to the GP because they're hypochondriacs. And if they had to pay 10 quid every time they went, they'd probably stop going. So it would free up a load of free time for the GP.
Yeah, no, I agree. If you go into our local clinic, they do their best. But honestly, I have seen I was in there the other week, and I have seen less people at a Charlton home game. You know, it was absolutely heaving, the place. I mean, it was absolutely. Now, I'm sure that they were sick, or I hope they were sick, but I wonder, looking at the state of some of them, I wonder whether you should do an idea which I had for hospitals, which you should have doors which, if you are too fat, you can't actually come through, right? And on that basis, I looking around there. I'm, obviously you've got your own challenges there, Mike.
Thank you very much,
whether
Kel.
you'll be allowed.
I'm going private. Don't worry.
Yeah, well, that's the point. Well, what about this story? So I had a. I don't want to go into the detail because it's only 7:54. But I had a what can only be described as a dodgy rear end issue. So I decided to have. Thanks very much. Yeah, well, this is the joy of the online world.
Absolutely.
And so I contacted my GP, and they said, we've got a date for you in a month's time to see our doctor. I said, well, honestly, I'm not in good shape. And they said, yeah, it's a month's time, but thanks very much for calling.
Right.
So in the meantime, I went to the Runnymede private hospital, contacted them. They organised it all. 4 days later, I have the colonoscopy. The bad news for some parts of the country is that I had nothing wrong with me, right? Now, yeah, it cost me $3,000, right? It cost me $3,000. But at the end of the day, I found out that I was okay. By the way, it may not only just be some parts of the country that would be bad news. It might be most parts of the country. But but the point I make. So eventually I get a call from them saying, are you still okay for next Wednesday? I said, well, do you realise that in the time that I asked for your appointment, I actually, and the time that you've called, I've actually found out I'm perfectly all right because I spent £3,000 and went private.
Yeah. And
do you know what? To give the credit to the person, they didn't want to get involved in that discussion. They just said, thank you very much for telling us.
Yeah. Right.
That's where we are.
That's what you have to do.
System in our country.
Yeah, I mean, I've had to do very similar things as well because I've given up on the NHS. I don't even go to the GP anymore because it's so ridiculous to try and get
They
in
haven't
there.
given up on you.
No, that's good. No, but I mean, listen, I'm keeping several doctors and nurses alive and keeping them, absolutely liquid. Their liquidity has never been better. But let me ask you a couple of other things. Somebody's nominated you, by the way, already for Bookshelf of the Week because you've got a fascinating bookshelf there behind you, and also a couple of polls. A couple of people suggested you might be Rear of the Year after that. But listen, we've got to talk about the West Midlands Police.
I'm not prepared. I'm not prepared to go into the last aspect of it and make it a public.
No.
I've had a word with Grok, and they have actually put clothes on me rather than Rear of the Year. But go on.
Yeah, no, let's talk about the front page of the Daily Mail. Shameless, the West Midlands Chief Constable, Craig Guilford, hanging on to his job. I saw you tweeted out yesterday. He must surely go, and he might well be out of a job by the end of today. But he's hanging in there, apparently claiming that he's been treated badly. This is an absolute shambles, isn't it?
Well, right. So the issue is the one area which will see him out the door, and is absolutely completely wrong, is when he had to admit to the Commons Select Committee that one of the pieces of evidence that they had supplied in order to ban Maccabi actually came from a scraping of the internet in which there was allegedly a problem in the West Ham Maccabi game. There was no West Ham Maccabi game. Anybody who knows anything about the online world knows that there are people putting shite out there, and I can only imagine what potential religion would have put out that kind of untrue allegation. The idea that this was included in their decision making, right, without checking. By the way, I wouldn't know. nobody would know. Was there a West Ham Maccabi game? I'm a big football fan.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have known. Their job is to check it.
Of course.
That, which was part of their decision-making process, must lead to Guildford going on top of everything else. Everything. It's been a total and complete shambles. Now, the issue for this guy, right? So I'm sitting in Guildford's position, right? And I think I've been badly served by my colleagues. Okay. By the way, our country should be so grateful for journalism.
Yeah.
So grateful for journalism as it exposes time after time after time that within state industries particularly there is the most disgraceful decision making going on without any form of scrutiny, without our journalism. So we need, in the world going forward, we need more. It probably won't do you any good, but we need more and more Mike Graham shows. We need more online offerings, which is the great news about YouTube doing so well and and everybody else doing so badly. It means that people, individual journalism will do well. And thank God for the Times. Thank God for the Telegraph. Thank God. I used to be able to say thank God for the Sun, but these days I'm afraid it's a pale shadow, and we won't go there. But so. So this guy is now effectively negotiating, because what he's saying is, look, you can't throw me out easily, and the guy who's going to give him the bullet is the guy who appointed him.
Yeah.
So the other issue that emerges on that is that guy was chairman of Momentum in the local branch.
This is the police and crime commissioner, right?
Yeah. So he supported Corbyn. Now, under Corbyn, two things happened. One, he said that Hamas introduced them as my friends, right? He apologized for that. He said he regretted it. Really big deal. Hamas is a terrorist outfit. Right. Two, under Corbyn, the Labour Party was censured by the Equality Commission for being anti-Semitic. I mean, an extraordinary thing to happen. The leader of the Labour Party, the entire party was anti-Semitic. So when something like this happens, you would have thought the crime commissioner would say, actually, this is not good. It's not good for the West Midlands. It's not good for relationships between Muslims and Jews in the area. I'm afraid you've got to go. Could it be that actually, funnily enough, he doesn't see anything wrong with the ban? And in fact, after all, he went round. He said 53 people in a panel to appoint Guildford, and he said, "I'm not going to get rid of him." Does he have some leaning towards the decision, and therefore, actually, in a funny way, he's on Guildford's side? Now, if he is, why doesn't he say so? Actually, what he's saying, I don't want to get sued. Now, you go to Guildford and say, look, whether it's your fault, not your fault, you're sitting at the top of the pyramid, you've got to go. There is a deal to be done. Let's just get rid of the guy. The idea, and this is obviously a Tory idea, I totally buy that they should never have allowed the Police and Crime Commissioner to be the only person that can decide whether a chief constable should go. Actually, at 100 miles an hour, push through Parliament an act so that Mahmood can fire him. But this can't carry on. You can't have a chief constable of an important area of the country who's clearly, lost the confidence of a government. And clearly a lot of people are enormously upset at a decision which should never have been made. Can't have him sitting there just taking his money and saying, "Oh yes, we'll pursue that guy for speeding." It's not right.
No, it's absolutely shocking. I mean, you think it will be ended before the end of this week? Then do you think you see him going at some point? Somebody's going to lean on him enough, give him enough money.
Well, it's a question. I should imagine of the money. I should imagine whatever the deal is, and he says he's lawyered up. Well, first of all, who's paying for the lawyers? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Let's hope it's not the state. That really would be a disgrace. And he just wants to dig in. It will actually reduce West Midlands to a laughingstock. You get stopped by the cops for speeding or doing this or doing that, or some of you get arrested for this, that, the other, whatever. honestly, it'll be the only subject matter. And you can't imagine that if you were further down the ladder, if you were a hard-working police officer, simply not quite walking the beat, but driving the beat, right? And he was in this kind of trouble. How long would he last? 10 seconds, exactly. 5 seconds, 0.1 seconds. The guy has to go. It has gone wrong, and it's time to go.
Yeah, absolutely right. Kelvin, great to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. Superb. We'll talk more about the BBC and YouTube another time. Great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Kelvin McKenzie, former editor of The Sun, of course, media titan, founder of TalkSport as well, giving us his views there on the dreadful state of the West Midlands Police. The Chief Constable, Craig Guilford, still defying calls to step down, still saying that he thinks he's been mistreated, still saying that he's not going anywhere because he's got the support of the Police and Crime Commission. Which is run by a bloke who was appointed by Jeremy Corbyn, believe it or not. Unbelievable stuff. There's lots more to do. This from Mary Ann. He's to blame for that lousy brat who filmed me twice, speeded me up, took my money, got me off, not with a fine to pay or that gas brilliance. That was just the tip of an ice ball, and now that library is needed. Yeah, Mary Ann talking there about local councils, I think. They want to shut down pubs because people gather and socialise there, scheming, bitching and moaning about Labour, says Farleague. And Judy from Yorkshire says she's sending a message for the first time. Thank you very much indeed. Maybe the people who can't be bothered to turn out at local elections, the turnout is derisory in many places, will now see how important voting is, says Mel. That's an interesting point. Lots of you making super chats available to us as well. This one from Steve, who says the Chief Constable of West Midlands resembles Elmer Fudd. He does actually, which is not a good thing. Paula says, morning Mike, great show again, full of common sense. Will voice notes be coming back as the show goes on? Have a great morning. Yes, indeed they will. We're working on the technology to get voice notes on and also eventually to get callers as well. Here's one from Canastria. In a Senate hearing on Tuesday, Senator Josh Hawley asked Dr. Nisha Verma, can men get pregnant? She refused to answer. Make sanity great again. What on earth is going on? This is absolutely and utterly ridiculous. One here from Mary Ann. I say. He's not been in for years. There are no newspapers to read anymore or mags. So footsteps for buses next, hey? Unbelievable. Canary Wolf has a space for you. That sounds a bit mad, that one. I mean, some of these messages that come in, and I start reading them, and you suddenly get halfway through it and you go, actually, I don't know what this one says. I'm not really sure. Mary Ann says, a European health card then for South Era, or a global one for 50 quid. Villages need libraries as it's the last community asset for meetings such as coffee mornings, says Jonathan. Not all as their own computers. We are already losing our pubs. Well, yeah, but Kelvin's point about these community centres is that there's never anybody in them. And that's part of the problem, and the amount of money it costs to run them, to heat them, to put somebody in there to work there, it is ridiculous. And as you know, as Kelvin said, if you want to buy a book, go to the local charity shop and you'll find loads of books if you want to read a book. Time check now, 7 minutes past 8. It's time, of course, for Edward Hughes with the news.
Good morning. Here are your UK news headlines for Thursday, January 15th, 2026. A quick 1-minute roundup. The big economic story, November 2025. GDP figures are released today, with economists expecting to confirm the UK economy continued to contract late last year. My 5-year-old nephew could have told you that. This comes amid warnings of further weakening in 2026. Despite easing inflation and recent Bank of England interest rate cuts, businesses report hiring slowdowns after the autumn budget's rising costs. Hey, Richard III, go and buy a bottle of olive oil for a tenner and tell me the economy isn't in dire straits. Sultans of Swing. Weather-wise, brace for a wet and mild day across much of the country. Heavy rain is forecast for many areas, especially in the west and south, with highs around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in the south and milder than recent weeks. But take your umbrella, as downpours could lead to localised flooding. Shouldn't that be take your wellies? In politics, attention turns to ongoing fallout from the West Midlands police controversy over the Maccabi Tel Aviv fan ban, with the force apologising for errors and the Home Secretary expressing no confidence in the Chief Constable. And finally, the ongoing probe into social media giant X and its Grok AI tool continues, with Prime Minister Free-Gear Keir Starmer insisting the platform must fully comply with UK law on deepfakes and harmful content. I hope he gets Plank of the Century, let alone Plank of the Week, this Thursday on the Mike Graham Show at 7 p.m. I'll be tuning in with Mrs. Hughes. That's your headlines. Stay safe and dry out there. Back later, Tigers.
Thank you very much indeed. That's Edward Hughes with the news, of course. We're going to be hearing from Edward Hughes' wife, Edwina, in a moment, because she sent us a message. She wants to share some of the love that you've shown for Edward. Yesterday, in fact, a couple of people said they think he looks a little bit like Philip Schofield, and they very much like the animated version of him when he's actually speaking, rather than that floating head. So we'll be working on that. An awful lot of people are being very complimentary this morning, so we're struggling to find a pedant of the day, but we are possibly still looking for one. Catherine, which is a very nice message, but it could be a bit pedanty. Good morning, Mike. Maybe you should have a few books in your studio to make you look even more intellectual. Very possibly so. Kelvin talking to talk, says Bavaria. What a brilliant guest Kelvin is, says M. Other people have said, who's got 3,000 quid to make sure their arse isn't in any difficulty? And then somebody else says, imagine spending 3,000 quid to find out you're absolutely fine. I wouldn't be very happy about that. It's from Adam, that one. Who could afford 3,000 quid for someone to check their arse? That's amazing. Waiting list for a house, a doctor, a dentist, just balmy. Might as well be homeless, says Scottish lad. The newsreader sounds so smug and cocky, says Paul, but maybe so would I if I had a cushy job like his, better than working for a living. Yeah, he's got a great pension as well. How about this from Geordie in Morocco? Here in Morocco, I can see a specialist within 30 minutes. I can get my own blood work in 12 hours. I waited 2 years for a cataract removal, but in 5 days for 800 quid, it was done. And now I can see again. Amazing, isn't it? Newsmonger says, I miss listening to a good argument. Can we have someone who would dare to come on the show who is prepared to try to defend Labour? I love a good argument. Well, we are actually worried that the Labour government and the Labour sort of organisation as a party are frightened to come on this show. You know, we keep asking for cabinet ministers to come on. We keep asking for lefty journalists to come on, but many of them are too frightened. I can see that. Is Edward Hughes hard of hearing? He pulls the same surprised face I do when my missus is talking. Well, listen, what you should do when your missus is talking to you is not look surprised, but just look really, really fascinated and interested. And that way you'll have a long and happy and successful marriage. It says here on the front of the Daily Mail, why every woman should have a secret stash of cash their husband doesn't know about. Really. Now, how about listening to Mrs. Hughes, because Edwina's been in touch with us and we'd like to let you know what she sounds like and what she's got to say about her now quite successful news-reading husband.
Hello, Mike. I'd like to send a message to some of your viewers, if I might. My Eddie, or Eduardo as I like to call him, is feeling a little insecure about some of the negative comments he's been reading on YouTube. He's a very sensitive soul, but he can take criticism if it's merited. Could I ask you if you think he's doing a good job? He is the announcer at a lovely Welsh football club, and they all seem to love him. Just looking for some feedback, really. All the best, Edwina.
Edwina, thanks very much indeed. She might become a regular commentator, actually. Very nice to know that she calls him Eduardo. It's a bit sort of, you know, I don't know, what's the word? Roguish, perhaps? Eduardo. Newsreader sounds so sorry, we didn't one. Is Edward a ventriloquist now? He's not moving his mouth today. Love his suit. It looks very smart. Kilu says, my son's friend came over to the UK from the USA to go to uni to do his master's degree. He had to pay over £3,000 up front as an NHS fee. He went to an out-of-hours centre once for an infected thumb. Yes. Exactly right. And John nominates us because he's seen that there are 4 million total views on the Mike Graham Show channel, which we passed overnight. 4 million people have looked at what we do, which I think is a pretty staggering number. By coincidence, it's the same number of people, 4 million, who are actually going to now miss out on voting in May because the government is pushing anti-democratic cancelling of elections. And that's one of the big stories on the front pages this morning, front page of the Telegraph. And also, we talked yesterday, and we were going to talk to Kelvin McKenzie more about it, but we didn't get around to it. There's too much other stuff going on. But the fact that YouTube has now overtaken the BBC as the most watched TV channel in this country, right? And you have to say, it happened in December. It happened just after the Mike Graham Show was launched. And the 4 million views that we have managed to get on this channel are the difference between the BBC winning and YouTube winning. So I'm claiming it. I'm going to claim victory for independent journalism. I'm going to claim victory for YouTube because our 4 million views have pushed YouTube to the very, very top. Fantastic. John says the Bayeux Tapestry story is just a stitch-up. Very funny. And we could do a poll on that, actually. Should we bring the Bayeux Tapestry here or not? I mean, I'm going to say no. Why should we be paying 800 million quid to insure it? And why risk completely and utterly destroying it? As I say, you can imagine them opening the box and going, oh, Christ, it's just a load of dust. Terrible. I prefer Edwina's voice, says John. Get her reading the news. Maybe. It doesn't sound as good, though, does it? Edwina Hughes with the news. I guess you could do it that way. Now, coming up tomorrow, Friday, 7 o'clock at night, Plank of the Week is going to be there. We're going to be filming Plank of the Week a little bit later on. We've got nominations. We've got guests coming into the studio to do it. Here's what happened last week. Have a look.
Live from London, it's Plank of the Week with your host and show creator, Mike Graham.
Good evening and welcome to Plank of the Week. Not just any Plank of the Week, it's the first ever Plank of the Week in the new Mike Graham Show studio right here in central London. And I'm delighted to say that it's practically the 6th anniversary of the very first Plank of the Week, which included two rather special people, one Annunziata Rees-Mogg and one Russell Quirk. And there's the picture of the very first ever Plank of the Week, which was done in the News UK building 6 years ago yesterday, believe it or not, just before COVID, just before all sorts of other mad things happened. And guess what? As a beautiful gift to all of you who've been watching Plank of the Week for such a long time, we thought we'd get Russell Quirk back, we'd get Annunziata Rees-Mogg back, and we'd put in the middle Mr. Steve N. Allen. So very good evening to all of you. And there it was. Different guests this week, different planks, but it'll be just as entertaining. Absolutely brilliant. Mike, says Peter, I love hearing Pooch laughing in the background. Makes it feel more interactive. It's a great show. Well, all you got to do is make him laugh. Kevin says the NHS is a great point of service. The only problem we have is, like all public services, they are run terribly. Well, there is that. That is part of the problem. Now it's time for us to go to our next guest. It's coming up to 15 minutes past 8. Of course, don't forget, we are here every single weekday morning with the Mike Graham Show from 7 o'clock, and there's all the clocks there, as if you didn't know. We're going to get more clocks, by the way, and we're going to have a PO box address. So if you want to send us a clock in, we might be able to put it up on the wall. What we've got to tell you about this morning, though, of course, is that Jamie Jenkins is about to join us, and he's going to be commenting on a great many things, including that BBC story. But first of all, we should get some financial news out of the way. UK GDP was announced from November versus October to have risen 0.3%. Jamie says, don't call it a recovery. GDP is up just 0.1% since June and only 0.2% since March. That means 6 months of near zero growth, and they're still raising taxes. We talked about pubs and the increasing cost of business rates. Jamie says hospitality is also down, where we have seen lots and lots of job losses. Stats Jamie is the Twitter account you need to follow, the man that gives it to you straight and gives it to us straight on a regular basis. Jamie, very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mike. I think I saw Edward Hughes moonlighting on some Spanish show. That's where I think the Eduardo's coming from. Right? And you're obviously not paying him enough, Mike. He's doing some stuff over in Spain as well.
Well, you know, maybe he's gone down to the Costa del Crime to get a bit of sun in these dark times. But you've put this out just about half an hour ago. UK GDP pretty flat. Not much going on in the economy. We know that even though Keir Starmer keeps telling us we're going to get richer this year, everyone looks like they're getting poorer, don't they?
Well, I think the only person who's going to get richer is Edward Hughes, Mike, if you keep giving him a pay rise. But yeah, we've literally, the figures come out this morning. It does look on the face value a little bit of some green shoots of recovery. If you take the month-on-month figures, we have grown 0.3%, but that's pretty much because we've had pretty much stagnation over the last 6 months. And the figures I put up on my Twitter this morning, or X, whatever they call it these days, that we've literally seen very little growth, 0.1% since June, 0.2% since March. And one of the areas that's going down, I think you're going to be talking about it a bit later with Donald, is hospitality's down again, Mike. And that's the issue. We've seen hospitality jobs down, hospitality across the economic figures are down today. So whilst the monthly figures look reasonable, when you've had such poor figures for the last 5 or 6 months, we're just trundling along with very little growth at all.
Yeah, and the trouble is, there's no kind of light on at the end of the tunnel or light on the horizon or anything like that, because all that's happening is that Rachel Reeves is putting taxes up and up and up and up, and there's nothing to say that anybody's going to be any better off. I mean, we're seeing, like I say, that story from the pub today in the Telegraph, 2,000% a rise in business rates, which is going to mean that all of their profit of about £17,000 a year is wiped off the slate, and they probably have to go out of business. You know, same goes for an awful lot of smaller businesses up and down the country, whether it's a smaller shop, whether it's a stationary business, whatever it is. Insurance rates are going up, national insurance rates are going up. I mean, there's just no hope for people who are making any money privately.
No, the consumer-facing side of the economy, that's the part that's struggling, Mike. It's, Rachel Reeves borrowing money and taxing us and spending it on the public sector. That's the only growth that we're really seeing is the public sector, and you can't sustain that in the long term, Mike. Those pubs getting those massive increases in the business rates. Well, what does it do? It just means more unemployment because you can't afford the pubs close, or people can't go out because they can't afford it. So ultimately, Mike, we've talked about this many, many times. We've got to get taxes down. I just don't think Rachel Reeves, Keir Starmer have a clue. The one U-turn they should do, I think we had 13 U-turns with digital ID, obviously, this time. There's talk of another U-turn on juries. I think we've talked about that in the past. We do need a U-turn on their tax policy, because if you don't get taxes down, Mike, you've got to get money into people's pockets to go to the pub, not actually stifling the economy by, basically taking the money off everybody.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely shocking. Really, really bad situation. And I mean, we'll have, I dare say, a series of economic indicators over the course of the next quarter. What's coming next? What are we looking out for next?
Yes, I'll probably be on with you next week, Mike. We'll have the ONS will publish the jobs figures. So that's the things that have been really struggling over the last 18 months. So I can't see any green shoots coming there. We get the retail sales figures, and then we get the big, massive borrowing figures, because I think we borrowed £163 billion in the last year. Staggering amounts of money. So obviously on this show, Mike, we'll keep abreast of the figures. We'll bring them to the viewers as they land. And hopefully we'll start seeing some green shoots in all the figures. I don't think me and you are going to be talking for the next 6 months about much green shoots at all, though.
No, absolutely not. The only green shoots we're going to be seeing is the green shoots coming out of Ed Miliband's backside, where he's basically still on his net zero crusade, apparently, according to the Telegraph this morning. And we had a story just yesterday, I think, saying that the true cost of the net zero revolution is now running into trillions and trillions and trillions of pounds. But on the Telegraph front page this morning, they've got a piece basically saying that Ed Miliband now wants to spend £1.8 billion more to put hundreds of new wind turbines around Britain's coastline in order to hit the targets. And you've been writing, I think, about Ed Miliband on your Substack. What have you been saying?
Yeah, if people want to get on the Substack, obviously you've got great subscribers or they might watching the show. You can catch me on statsjamie.co.uk. And basically, what we had last winter, and we'll get the figures for this winter in probably a few months' time. What we had last winter, Mike, was a wind drought. We had one near record low wind blowing in the UK. So Miliband's coming out now talking about all these extra wind farms. And the big issue you've got there is when you get wind droughts, and even the BBC are reporting this, when you've got a lack of wind and it's dark at night, you don't generate electricity. So when we had this wind drought, what did we do? We had to use a load more gas just to power the electricity system. And it's been very cold in the UK, hasn't it, the last couple of weeks? And 80% of people in the UK use gas boilers. Heat pumps aren't as efficient in the winter as well. So the talk from Miliband to try and get us on the heat pumps is absolute nonsense. Yeah. And the big issue with Miliband with these wind turbines is it is intermittent. It's great when the wind's blowing. If it's blowing too hard, obviously with them paying to switch them off. And the critical thing from the net zero policy that they're going down, Mike, which I think is important, is if you go back to the late 1990s, early 2000s, we were dependent on very little gas from abroad. We were basically using all our own gas, and we were actually exporting a little bit, which is great for the economy because all the money generated within the economy, jobs within the economy, just talking about the economic figures. But what's happened now is because of you can't just blame Miliband for this. We had the lunacy of the last Tory government as well. Successive governments have basically got us to a position where last winter, when we needed this gas because of the wind we were blowing, only 35% of it came domestically. And where are we getting all the gas from? Mike, you've probably been talking about this many times with other guests as well. Yeah. Most of that gas comes from Norway. The same seabed that we're banning our own basically companies from exploring for the gas. So this all lunacy of putting more wind farms up, you could literally put millions and millions more turbines up, Mike, but when the wind doesn't blow, it doesn't generate anything. So you need a bit of energy mix with a bit of wind in there, but Miliband just all in on wind and, absolute nonsense.
Yeah. Well, this latest round of expenditure by the Energy Secretary basically involves approving plans for 6 new offshore wind farms following an auction of renewables contracts. And this idea of an auction is this kind of stitch up, isn't it? Because basically what it does is it provides government money to be kind of used to bribe private companies to build these things so that they're not bearing any of the cost. We are. So it's all being paid for by the taxpayer. It's a large subsidy round, according to the way they've described it. The cost will be borne by household bill payers over a period of 20 years under Labour's plans to hit net zero. So basically, your electricity bill will go up and up and up over the next 20 years to pay for these 6 wind farms. It's ridiculous.
And basically, if wind was the future, why does any taxpayers' money need to go into this?
Yeah.
You know, you'd think if it's so efficient, basically they'll generate their electricity, it's blow, the wind's blowing, and they sell it to us. So the fact that we've got to actually invest taxpayers' money in to get this going, I'd love to know a little. Maybe this is something, you know, some of your viewers or listeners, and I'll maybe have a look myself. I'd love to know a little bit more about who's running these companies and what links they've got, because you know it all seems some dark art and who are getting these things. And I think Dale's been invested quite a lot in wind, and he's donating to the Labour Party as well. Not suggesting, you know, there's anything dodgy going on there, but I think it's something that needs looking at in terms of who's getting these contracts, who's winning these things. Because I think, you know, Mike, you only got to go back. I think it was when we had Cameron and Nick Clegg came in, and he was saying, "Oh, nuclear. It's no point investing in nuclear because we won't get the power online until about 2024, 2025. We could have done with that now, couldn't we? You know, short-termism from government is absolute nonsense. But I think that going for wind, Mike, it's just not the solution. A little bit part wind, but we can't be chucking all this money. And the Miliband, absolute useless minister. And there's talk of him being the next prime minister, Mike. You know, we've had to check Miliband in the past. Imagine Miliband. I think Starmer's bad enough. Miliband would be even worse.
Oh, he would be. Absolutely awful. Dreadful. Suzanne says this, Mike, loving the show. Well done. Not hearing a lisp or a kiss or a tut noise today. So hopefully that is sorted. Well, surely proof, as if it was needed, that I wasn't doing that in the first place. It was something to do with the way that you were listening. But thank you very much indeed. We're still getting pedants coming through, but not so many as we were yesterday. When is John Rentoul coming on? I miss your chats with him, says Alison. We're going to try and get these guys on. You know, some of them are being a bit slow, shall we say, in responding to us, because I think they're waiting to see just how successful we are going to be. And because we are being very successful, more and more people are now coming up and saying, can we come on the show, please? But Jamie Jenkins has been here since the beginning, so you will always be one of our top guests, Jamie. Thank you very much indeed. Let me play you a little clip, actually, from yesterday on the energy bills front. Claire Coutinho, who's the Shadow Energy Secretary, she's a Tory MP, says that energy bills have basically gone up massively under Ed Miliband. Have a look.
People out there are at breaking point. They get up every day, they go to work, and everything they earn is being eaten up by Labour's taxes and their bills. He tried to tell me last time we were at this dispatch box that people's energy bills are going down, not up. Nobody out there believes him. Energy bills have gone up 5 times under him because of his policies, and now he is celebrating this botched wind auction, which has seen him sign up to the highest prices of wind power for a decade, prices which are close to 20% higher than the cost of electricity. The question is, how on earth can he bring bills down from here with these higher prices? That is what people were promised. This will be the PFI of the energy system long after he's gone from this place. And I warned the Secretary of State, that by setting himself completely unrealistic targets, the wind developers would have him over a barrel. And that is what has happened here.
Yeah, and what a terrible thought of having Ed Miliband over a barrel, or over anything really. That wouldn't be good. Don't blame listeners, says Gavin. Not a good look. What did I blame listeners? I didn't blame listeners. I did not blame listeners. But people were moaning yesterday they could hear me lisping. And I said, I don't think it's me. I think it's you. One here from Gary. Is Jamie Jenkins Edward Hughes? His voice is very similar. No, he's not. I can absolutely categorically declare that that's not the case. Let's talk a bit about the BBC, because we were very pleased to see that YouTube, which is our new home, is now doing better than the BBC. Surely the beginning of the end for the BBC this year, isn't it?
Yeah, so, you know, it's worth reminding people how much it costs for the BBC. So £174.50 is the annual licence fee.
Yeah.
And basically it's a tax, Mike, isn't it? And it's a tax. It's not really fair, because if you've got a family of 4 or you're a single person household, you have to pay the same fee overall. And I think where we are, I did a little stint in the BBC newsroom, Mike, when I was at the ONS. I did a comment there.
Yeah.
And 2015, and it was good to see it at face value in terms of what actually goes on, the amount of staff and journalists they've got. You know, if you was on the Today programme hosting the show this morning, Mike, you're probably about 3 or 4 producers. You have another presenter to help you out. You can go to the toilet, you know, and your show is delivering just as good content as what you would get, and probably even better, Mike, obviously, in terms of what you got. So what's happened over the last 40 years the media landscape has completely changed. You're right, YouTube has overtaken the BBC. Choice is there. So what I don't get with the BBC is, why are they paying a fortune to kind of celebrities to host podcasts that could literally put the podcast out themselves? There's no justification for that. In the 80s, an episode of Only Fools and Horses at Christmas time was pulling in 17 million viewers. The best viewed show, I think, outside of the King's Speech this year was about 4.3 million. So the choice is there. And the reason I wrote about this recently is the government launched their charter renewal of the BBC, I think, last month in December. So they're looking at the future of the BBC. And all the indicators, Mike, when you consider the amount of choice that's out there, I can't think in this kind of landscape that we've got, you can justify really asking people to pay £174.50. And you have to pay that even if you want to watch ITV, or if you want to watch, say, a live broadcast on YouTube of a channel that's actually broadcast in the UK. You have to do that. You don't have to pay for the license fee to watch you, Mike. So if people are fed up with the BBC and they don't want to watch any of that or live TV, they can come and watch you because you're not broadcast on mainstream television.
Right.
So I think ultimately the figures are showing that with YouTube overtaking the BBC, you can't continue with a license fee model going forward.
Exactly right. And as I say, I'm claiming victory here because we started our show in December, and that's the very month that the BBC got overtaken by YouTube. And today, we can announce very proudly, it happened overnight, we've now got 4 million views on this channel, which is spectacular considering how short a time it's been going.
No, definitely, Mike. And I look at your figures compared to, I think, where you used to work as well. I think you're smashing them up. I know you probably didn't want to comment on that, but doing really good. Absolutely flying out of the bar. I'm going to have to come up to the studio's looking great, Mike, as well, with your nice neon.
Yeah, you'll have to come and pay us a visit if you can get
up there one week and come into the studio and
definitely
see what it's all like. I did enjoy your tour that you put out yesterday. That was quite good.
That was good, yeah. We'll do more of that as we add more and more things in. But if you could get a train that actually works to come from Cardiff up to Paddington, because I mean at the moment every time I look at Paddington Station, there's something wrong with it. The overhead wires aren't working, or you can't get to Heathrow. It's absolutely nightmarish. Just back to Starmer for a moment, because of course they announced this week that there would be no digital ID made compulsory, which you've also written about on your Substack. He's not writing on X anymore. I used to go religiously to his X account every single morning about 8:05 because he would post his first lie of the day. He's now taken to doing it on Facebook, and I'm happy to say that I've been sent this by British Patriot, who's keeping an eye on Keir Starmer's Facebook account, and he's still saying the same old rubbish, right? He's got a picture of him talking to some old people, and he says, "We're getting Britain back on track. Rail fares frozen, prescription charges frozen, fuel duty frozen, £150 cut from your energy bills, a major cut to the cost of childcare, and a boost to the national minimum wage. There's more to do, but this country is turning a corner." I mean, it's just cobblers, isn't it?
Oh, totally, Mark. I think the last tweet he put out was, I think I was on the show with you actually, when he said the same thing. He's putting things back on track. And I think I come back saying it was like an episode of Thomas the Tank Engine. And it probably is. It's literally the second series of Thomas the Tank Engine. Because Britain is not on track. They're talking about this Northern Rail now and sorting all the rail things out. But if Britain's back on track, it's just talking absolute nonsense. Because, the digital ID, the U-turns, you can't trust the government at all, Mike. They're going to spend 1.8 billion on digital ID. We do need to keep an eye on this, because sometimes, you say you're going to bring something in, then you say it's voluntary and then you won't have to do it. But when the infrastructure is in place, it's like saying CCTV is voluntary, because when all the cameras are up there, they're still watching you, aren't they? So we've got to keep an eye on this. It's costing £1.8 billion. The only reason that this has been kind of dropped is because public support for it has gone down, because everything Starmer announces, Mike, support absolutely goes down after the back of it, and we've got to really keep an eye on this one. And it's good. What the great thing about your show, Mike, is you're calling it all out. I'd love one day for you to do a one-on-one Laura Koonsberg style interview with Keir Starmer. YouTube would absolutely break with the number of viewers watching that one.
Oh, can you imagine? I mean, the trouble is, even when I was at Talk, they would very rarely come on. Occasionally, they would give me a cabinet member, and they would just come on and spout absolute and utter lies. Pat McFadden, I remember, came on before they actually won the election, the sort of Mr. Enforcer character. And I said to him, because he was famously before that renowned for moving next door to the house that he owned, to rent the house next door so that he could claim the expenses and put them through, because he couldn't claim the mortgage relief. So that he basically, and I said, can you explain to ordinary working people why, because you were able to do that, that was the right thing to do. And he said, well, I didn't break any rules. I said, well, that's not really the point, is it? The point is that you manipulated the system so that you could reclaim expenses that you couldn't otherwise have done if you hadn't moved next door. And these people are just weasels, it seems to me. And so he never came on again after that. That was the last time we ever saw him. It's absolutely shocking. So anyway, listen, we're great to see you, great to talk to you. People can find your Substack, obviously, on Substack, but if they don't know much about Substack, can you give us, because people have said to me, can we get somebody to explain what Substack actually is? So here's a good opportunity to do it. Tell us what it is.
Yeah, so it's basically a platform for people to kind of, rather than you have to rely on the mainstream media or just the general newspapers, it allows people like myself, people like you, Mike, to go direct. So people can get it statsjamie.co.uk. And basically it's just loads of articles. I share a lot of the video clips that me and you talk about as well, Mike, every single week. So you can get it direct. And the good thing about it is if people subscribe to your show, the Mike Graham Show as well, what it does is basically, rather than the algorithms of social media determine if something pops up on your feed, because if people are following you or me on X, for example, you might not see all the content because it depends what comes up on the feed. But at least with that, if you subscribe, you get it direct into somebody's inbox. It'll come up and you're very educated exactly on what's going on every single day. So I'd encourage people to get over to your Substack as well, Mike Graham Show, and you can get mine as well, statsjamie.co.uk, and see every single thing. I write about 3 or 4 things a week, Mike, and then all the highlights they'll get on the show with you when we talk about it.
Right, brilliant stuff. Jamie, good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Jamie Jenkins there, Stats Jamie reporting in. He's our favourite statistician, used to work for the Office for National Statistics, and he's really, really good at dissecting government figures and all sorts of other things like that. Mike, it would be nice for you to consider changing your ticker tape intermittently for a cancer charity in Samaritans. I think your viewers would appreciate that. Well, I'll tell you what, we do a Substack after show every single day. And today we're going to be talking to Hugh Andre, who is the founder of something called We Served, which is, it's not a charity, it's actually a business, but it's run for the benefit of veterans in this country. It's run for the benefit of veterans coming out of the armed forces who are looking for jobs, looking for accommodation, looking for retraining for new skills. And it's a fantastic organisation, and we will be promoting that very, very much. And we will also be promoting, of course, an awful lot of charitable enterprises over the course of time as we go forward and as we build the channel and as we build more and more parts of the channel and features of the channel and different shows as well. Meanwhile, we are going to go to Edward Hughes with the news in a moment, but let me give you some of the headlines that we've already got here. 4 million people denied the right to vote, which of course the same number has seen our channel, 4 million views. The shameless top cop from the West Midlands, Craig Guilford, still sitting there, lawyering up, saying he's not going to leave. On Iran, Donald Trump overnight has said that it could be a coin toss as to whether or not any airstrikes are actually ordered, but according to one of the stories in the papers this morning, the killings have actually stopped in Iran. We remain unconvinced by that because it's very difficult to actually verify anything that's going on inside of that country at the moment. They were supposedly executing people in the public square yesterday, but according to a couple of stories, one in the Times, I think, and one in the Telegraph, the killings have stopped because the Iranian Republican Guard and the ruling kind of republic don't want to be attacked by America. Meanwhile, though, they have moved some British personnel and some American personnel out of bases in the Middle East, in Qatar and in the UAE particularly, just in case there's an attack from Iran over into that particular part of the world. Ed Miliband, back in the news, £1.8 billion he wants to spend on 6 new wind farms, which you'll be paying for in your electricity bills for the next 20 years. The Chinese super embassy in London is now facing a court challenge. It's a very British story, this, because it turns out that despite the fact that the government seems to be very, very happy to have them build it, there's a local residents group near Tower Bridge, which is where they want to do it in Tower Hamlets, who say, no, we don't want this built here. It's going to be an eyesore. It's going to create all kinds of problems. It's going to be a difficult place to navigate, and we do not want it in our backyard. And apparently, the lawsuit could mean that the building of the super embassy is put off for a good 5 to 10 years. There's nothing like British intransigence and the NIMBYs who actually can get to stop everything going on. Lots of other news. We're going to talk about the Bayeux Tapestry as well coming up because, of course, we've got David Hockney, the artist, basically saying he doesn't want it to be transported over to Britain to be loaned to the British Museum because it might end up being destroyed, which would be awful, wouldn't it? You know, it's a document that was made, or a parchment, if you like, from the 11th century. Absolutely extraordinary. And so, you know, I'm with David Hockney on this. I don't think they should be bringing it here at all. just because the British Museum wants to make a few quid. I don't think that's acceptable. Let's get some real news from Edward Hughes.
Good morning. Here are your UK news headlines for Thursday, January 15th, 2026. A quick 1-minute roundup. The big economic story, November 2025. GDP figures are released today, with economists expecting to confirm the UK economy continued to contract late last year. My 5-year-old nephew could have told you that. This comes amid warnings of further weakening in 2026. Despite easing inflation and recent Bank of England interest rate cuts, businesses report hiring slowdowns after the autumn budget's rising costs. Hey, Richard III, go and buy a bottle of olive oil for a tenner and tell me the economy isn't in dire straits. Sultans of Swing. Weather-wise, brace for a wet and mild day across much of the country. Heavy rain is forecast for many areas, especially in the west and south, with highs around 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in the south and milder than recent weeks. But take your umbrella, as downpours could lead to localised flooding. Shouldn't that be take your wellies? In politics, attention turns to ongoing fallout from the West Midlands police controversy over the Maccabi Tel Aviv fan ban, with the force apologising for errors and the Home Secretary expressing no confidence in the Chief Constable. And finally, the ongoing probe into social media giant X and its Grok AI tool continues, with Prime Minister Free-Gear Keir Starmer insisting the platform must fully comply with UK law on deepfakes and harmful content. I hope he gets Plank of the Century, let alone Plank of the Week, this Thursday on the Mike Graham Show at 7 p.m. I'll be tuning in with Mrs. Hughes. That's your headlines. Stay safe and dry out there. Back later, Tigers.
Edward Hughes with the news, proving that if you persevere with something, people will eventually grow to love it. And many of you now love Edward Hughes with the news, and indeed his fragrant wife, Edwina. We'll hear from her all through the week, I dare say. John says, I bet she doesn't call him Eduardo when he's late back from the pub with a cold takeaway. No, I'm sure that's probably not the case. Maybe it's only for certain situations, shall we say, when that happens. Has Edward got his phone under the table, says Car Park Camper. I don't know, but he's been instructed that he's not allowed to send any messages while he's reading the news. Morning, Mike. Watching from Berkshire. Love Maria. Good to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Capricorn Moon says, we've got a hater in the chat. Well, I don't know about that. Here's a good one from Vic. The Hughes at 10. Well, nearly, here in France. Absolutely. Eduardo needs a turquoise tie, says Kev. 800 million to ensure that tapestry. You buy a new one for that, says Don. I don't think that's the point. I don't think you could actually buy a new one. Another U-turn. Starmer fired Miliband and Ed said no way. Says SOB. Can Ed change his tie colour, please? Maybe turquoise, says Fizzy Red. A couple of those, actually. Interesting, that. Well, listen, I'll tell you what we're going to do now, because there's yet another ridiculous video out that Keir Starmer has produced for the Labour Party, which we'll show you in a minute. But before that, lots of you have said you were very much enjoying this yesterday. So in case you missed it, here's another look at our beautiful new studio, the home of the Mike Graham Show. Check it out. Good afternoon. Welcome to the studio. I've just been talking to Edward Hughes to make sure that he's behaving himself and he's not doing anything that he shouldn't be doing. This is, of course, the home of common sense. And when you talk about the home of common sense, this is the real home of common sense. And this is where it all happens. This is the sort of the brains of the whole operation. This is where Pooch sits, where he's got all this incredible equipment. And look at this. These are all the different scenes that we can use. Preview, program, on, off, stop, go. If I press that, you can change the ident of the show. If you press that, you can get a bit closer to the plank. If you press that, you get a completely different view as well. We've got some great microphones. We've got more microphones coming in, actually. There's the clock, and one of the things that so many of you love about the show. And there's another clock over there, by the way, and let's not forget that one. All of these little things are fascinating to me. I don't really know too much about them, but they all work brilliantly, and we are using them every day, in every single way. Now, come back over this way because I want to show you this. This is amazing, right? This is our sort of private club scene. This is where we're going to be sitting. When I'm sitting here, I'll be interviewing somebody sitting there, and this will be the background. And it looks rather like one of those expensive gentlemen's clubs, doesn't it? Which is rather good. Over here, we've brought some artwork with us because we thought we should. This is actually a painting done by my father of a house I once lived in Swiss Cottage in North London. And this was my farewell, page one, which is what we used to do when I got fired again from the Daily Express, and that was a while ago. Over here, we've got a picture of the Flatiron building, which is very close to where I used to work when I lived in New York. And then there's a portrait of me, which was very kindly done by one of the viewers from my old show at Talk. Over here, we've got plenty of products, I suppose you might say. This is the sofa, a couple of spare ties, some moisturiser, some lip balm, a little bit of perfume. I bought that from my daughter. Some hairspray. I don't use that much, I have to say. I don't, as you can see. A brush, some headache pills, just in case you're not feeling very well. Got some hair gel, just in case you need it. We got sugar, we got coffee, we got bananas. In fact, I'm going to have one of these. Here's a movable camera here. Over here, we've got a picture of Ziggy. Some people think it should be in shot. I'm not sure about that, but we'll see. We may have to move it. And over here, another front page that was done for me when I was over at News UK. Over here, this is the Christmas decoration that we had, which I'm being told we should now get rid of. But I don't know, I quite like it. You know, it's Christmas every day here at the Mike Graham Show. And here's the plank for Plank of the Week, which is going to be going out every single week on a Friday at 7 o'clock. Here's the clock, which has been a source of great amusement for an awful lot of people. A nice little side light there. The clock is not necessarily got the right time on it, but we'll see if we can fix that. Over here, we've got some soundproofing, we've got some more lights, and we've got, of course, the great Mike Graham Show YouTube Silver Plaque, which was presented to us for passing 100,000 subscribers in about as quick a time as anybody's ever done it. I think it was within about 2 weeks of starting off. This is where I sit, and this, of course, is my microphone. Here we've got a little man bag full of things that I may have to put on my face. Got my iPad here, got a glass of water. This is a screen that I use to look at to see what's going on. That's the camera that I look at to see whether I'm doing the right thing. Boots will talk to me in my earpiece, which I sometimes put in there. And so this is our new home, and we're very delighted with it. Pooch put it together literally in record time. 2 weeks ago, there was none of it here. And we've been going 3 days now. We're delighted with everything that you're doing. We couldn't be happier. Keep your thoughts and keep your ideas coming, and anything that you want that we're not doing, just let us know. And remember, whatever you do, no matter how much of it there is going on out there, do not be a plank. Geordie Mark says, where's the bar with all the booze though, Mike? Yeah, that's a very good point. I think Pooch is going to put a bar in and put some fridges in as well, so we can have some cold beers. Actually, I think on Friday, tomorrow, Chris Walkie is going to be joining us. He's the man with the bubbles. He's going to be coming in to do an after show with us with a bit of fizz. Bit of champagne, because I think it's time we celebrated, isn't it? One from Linda, who says, I'm super pleased that Mike is back, but the studio looks like a bachelor's pad after a divorce. Can you not cheer up the setting? Well, I mean, we're doing what we can. It's 2 men. It's me and Pooch, right? There's no women involved, so there's no nice things. But there's a new lamp. There's a big plant over there, which I'm going to interview later on in the week to see where it's come from. And also, it was just before we speak to Donald McLeod in a moment, who's up there in Scotland, who's going to tell us all about the state of the nation and the finances of the Scottish nation as well. I'm going to play a little trick on you, because I know that many of you enjoyed watching that studio tour, but what I didn't tell you was there was going to be a little quiz afterwards. Here's the quiz. What colour is the sofa? We'll give you a special prize if you get it right. Meanwhile, just before we talk to Donald McLeod about the state of play, have a look at this. This is yet another one of those pathetic Labour promotional videos that they put out just today.
Things have been tough in Britain for a while, but change is coming. Because this year, you will start to see the benefit of Labour's decisions in your community. You will see new homes and infrastructure, more neighbourhood police in your streets, hundreds of school-based nurseries opening next September, immigration, NHS waiting times, child poverty. They are already coming down, and they'll come down even more. And you'll see a difference in your pay packet as Labour supports you against the cost of living crisis. Rail fares, prescription charges, fuel duty, all frozen. free child.
No, listen, don't stop it. I can't take it. It's awful. It's just awful. So many of you are answering the question. So many of you are saying orange. You're nearly right. A couple of people are saying yellow, which is unusual. A couple of people are saying mustard. Somebody's saying what sofa? That's from John. But so many of you, dark orange. That's not bad actually, because incredibly, it is in fact burnt orange. That's what it is. The studio is so drab, says Alison. It's brighter on the tour. Well, that's because the lighting's different. You know, I like this lighting. I think it's really good. Let's talk to Donald McLeod. He knows a thing or two about putting on shows. He's an impresario. He's a nightclub owner. He's a man of mystery. He's a big friend of mine. He has been for many, many years. Welcome to the new show, Donald McLeod. Thank you very much indeed.
Fantastic, but that was the most disappointing entrance ever. You know, before that, Keir Starmer Sutra. Jeez, I've got a bit of sick in my mouth now after watching that. I can't get these images of him and, you know, maybe possible rent boys and all that out of the way. Also, you know, it's just disgusting.
Yeah, and also how ridiculous that here's a guy who's trying to make out that he's standing up for decency. He wants to ban these horrible sexual images on Grok and on X, and he's threatening to block Elon Musk from access to Britain. And then he makes this really horrible, ghastly, you know, kind of really sleazy kind of joke about Kama Sutra and screwing the nation. I mean, it's pathetic, isn't it?
He's the sort of guy you'd follow around the club and watch who he was talking to, what he was saying, and then immediately throw him out. He'd be scaring people, you know. Yes. He's one of the cases for Ask Angela. Girls would be running up, Ask Angela, that boy, that man over there, I don't like him. Out the door.
Absolutely. You should get some of those posters from the pubs who are saying, you know, no to Labour MPs, no Labour MPs coming into my club, because you could do that. But
we've even got a bigger problem, haven't we? We've got the two cheeks of the same earth up in Scotland. You know, tax and spend Labour and tax and spend SNP, and so we're stuck bookends of bankruptcy. I call them. You know. So where do you go? Who do we ban? We've been banning them all. They're absolutely disgraceful. Yeah. I mean, and the budget is this week is just proves my point. You know, it's been called a spiteful, you know, Daily Mail, spiteful SNP raid and Scots drivers. Well, yes, without a doubt it is. Right. We as a trade bodies, as a trade and the hospitality group, you know, we're always getting promised better days. The carrot's always dangling in front of us, you know. And we expected this time around that Shona Robinson, Robert Robinson, I call her, would actually give us a rate discount or continue the rate discount at 40%, which they only brought in last year and had been in England for 3 years. But she then does exactly the same as Labour and drops it to 15%. But at the same point, you know, rate valuations have went through the roof. There's one bar in Glasgow that's the rate valuation has went up, not 15%, not 20%, but 400%.
Jesus.
And so, and then a 15% drop on that, possibly. No, I don't think they even qualify for that, because what Robinson has done is actually put another cap on it. So it's not 51,000, it's 100,000. But most, you know, a lot of businesses, I'm not saying say most, 4% of businesses, are the largest employers, won't qualify for anything. So I don't get a penny in either of my clubs. So it's only the little businesses, which I'm not begrudging at all. I think that's, you know, great that they get something. But the bigger employers, the bigger spenders, those that put more into the economy through their tax are getting whacked yet again. And it's an absolute disgrace. So, I mean, you know, this
is the thing. I mean, it's
where
like
we go with this, you know.
Yeah, I know, and I mean, you've been through the ringer, haven't you? I mean, you had the COVID.
I'm still going through the ringer. God, I'm getting pressed flat, squeezed till the pips burst, you know. And you really go, why should I continue? You know, it's like, it's bad out there. People are suffering. They don't have the money. They can't come into the town. Say in Glasgow, they come out in Glasgow, they can't get back out because it costs a fortune or there's not enough public transport.
Yeah.
But I think that's replicated right across the UK. You're seeing that in towns and cities across the UK, and you start to think, and I don't like believing in conspiracy theories, that both governments like Labour, like the SNP, those real lefties, they don't want you out. They don't want you enjoying yourself. They don't want criticism either. And they're continually dangling these carrots that things will be better.
Yeah.
I have been duped. I was duped beautifully by, as many Scots were with Labour at the last election, anything but the SNP we wanted. And so the general election, bang, Labour win a massive majority in Scotland. But look at them. 2 days ago, so the budget, they abstained. They actually abstained. They're not voting.
Yeah.
And now they're commenting, Michael Mara saying, it's a difference of 70p per week in your income tax. But they've abstained. I don't want a government that abstains.
Yeah.
I want a government or an opposition that abstains. I want an opposition that fights and actually says, you are wrong.
Yeah.
We are not taking this anymore. And Labour did that. So how the hell did they expect? People like me are just going, well, who do I vote for now?
Yeah.
Who do I vote for in Scotland? Because at the end of the day, we're getting squeezed by the communist Greens, the equally communist SNP, and now Labour.
Yeah.
Labour have fallen dramatically. Way down. I think a third or fourth place in some areas.
Right.
But it means that we've just got to get the same. We're just getting the same old. We'll get another 5 years of the SNP, tired policies, tax is out of existence, council tax going up. I think it's going to go up 8%. Yeah. The roads aren't getting fixed.
Right.
Like the UK, it's just it's a disgrace. So you've got Labour down there, and you're all complaining. We've got SNP up here who are doing nothing. And as you know, in the past, I was a big supporter. But in the 18 years, they've just went, wow. It's
awful, isn't it?
They don't care about people that make money. Well, they don't like people that make money.
Right. But they want you to give up stuff. They want you to give them more money. And they just want to spend more money. They're not cutting back. They're not cutting back on government expenditure. Instead, they're actually spending more money.
Yeah, but actually what they're doing is siphoning an awful lot of it, millions and millions off of their pretending embassies, or putting it into fighting funds for the next election. I was reading something there. I think they've managed to squirrel another 6 million away to fight the up and coming Scottish elections.
Yeah.
That money should be going into the services here. The council services, COSLA are, rightly complaining that they're needing another. They need 750 million to support the councils.
Yeah.
So that our roads do get fixed, our bins do get emptied, the water runs, all that, blah blah blah. But it's not happening. They're masters of deceit. They really are.
They really are, and that is the real problem for the whole country, really, because Anas Sarwar was riding quite high in the polls before.
Yeah, like Anas. I know it was.
Yeah, but now that Starmer's got in and screwed everything up, he's down the gurgler. What about reform up there? What are they going to do?
Well, this is a big unknown, isn't it? Because people up here, if they go out and say, right, I'm going to vote reform, they're immediately pilloried, banished, to the Western Isles, dropped in the North Sea or something. It's the unspoken. There is a feeling that Reform are going to do very, very well in the next elections, whether that's through the list vote, but they reckon a minimum of 18 MSPs. The thing with Reform up here is they don't look that organised, yet people will vote for them regardless. Yeah. They don't seem to have a structure like they've got down south. Yeah. And the racist tropes are always thrown at them. So
they did very well. They did very well in Hamilton, didn't they? They came second in that election in Hamilton.
Well, they came second, and so if you start coming second in the list votes, you start propelling your MSPs. But Labour looked doomed. I mean, and you know, they can't. But we want the SNP doomed.
Yeah.
You know, and it's you know, we're watching her eyes with Badenoch. You know, she's been absolutely brilliant. You know, at Westminster. I personally think so. And taking the fight to Starmer, but. I mean, people are not going to forgive the Tories up here, and never have for years and years. I don't think they've ever forgiven them since they started. And but now, so again, who do you vote for? Lib Dems, Greens? No chance, no chance. I feel politically disenfranchised. I feel politically unhomed, and I think many Scots are. And I think it'll be the lowest poll ratings out.
Yeah.
You know,
well, you're seeing the messages. I don't know if you're seeing the messages on the screen, Donald, but people are loving what you're saying you should be running the country. Also, a couple of people saying that people in England don't realise how bad it is in Scotland, where Glasgow's now a complete and utter.
It's worse. We're the highest taxed. We're the highest taxed country in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're getting £50,000, which you know, yes, it's a nice sum of money if you're earning that, but. There's quite a lot out there earning it. You're getting absolutely battered another £1,500 at least, you know, more than England's.
Yeah.
That's not fair.
Right.
And where does that money go? So that all this extra taxes are piling in, but where's it going? It's not improving the health service. They're just going to throw more money at that. It's going to go bombing, you know, into the big hole, because you can't have incompetence that have already wasted all this money, expected to get a new law and not waste it again. I mean, they really do not know what they're doing. And you know what gets me here? There's about 30 of them, or maybe more than that, MSPs and SNP leaving for the next election.
Yeah.
You know, so they want Shona Robinson being one of them. Who are we going to get? Some stupid intern political activist with pink or blue hair talking a lot of bloody nonsense, you know. you get, I know it's
shocking.
Like, oh, Jesus, oh, you're this, you're that, getting targeting, you know. They hate scrutiny, just like Starmer. They hate getting slagged. I mean, it's going to be interesting, that's for sure, but you know, I really feel that the laughable thing is they ask for, you know, they're going to support encourage new entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Who would want to be a bloody entrepreneur in Scotland these days when they're just going to grab every penny? They'll be taking your pocket money, you know.
I know. I mean, a friend of mine, Lynn's texting me even as we're speaking, talking about wanting to buy some property up there, but not sure if she could even do it because of the mess the country's in. And these are people that want to invest in the country and give it some money and help it come back from the dead, but then, you know, they're not going to do it.
Here's a laugh, you know, it's like they're talking about properties over £2 million. They're going to bring in another worth £2 million, but they're going to bring in a mansion tax, just emulating what Labour are doing. You know, they're just you know, as I said, two cheeks of the same arse. You know, it's like they just emulate what they do. But how many people up here have houses over £2 million? Now, don't say me, but at the end of the day,
yeah, but you can't sell it though.
Yeah, well, you know, maybe there's some Russian oligarch want to escape, or some Iranian terrorist that's got some billions in gold that wants to buy it, you know.
Yeah, you never know.
But I mean, it's only going to raise £12 million, mate. You know, it's like,
I know,
what?
it's ridiculous. It's absolutely unbelievable. Listen, Donald, great to talk to you. We're out of time, unfortunately, but brilliant to see you. Looking well. Hopefully, we're going to see you in London soon.
Get a bar in there, and I'll be down. You know, I'll be down in a couple of weeks.
We'll get the bar sorted. We'll get you on
and the pool table. You know, make it the proper bachelor pad if that's what it's.
Exactly right. Brilliant to see you, Donald. Great. Thank you very much indeed. Donald MacLeod from the Clan MacLeod, talking up there from his lair just outside of Edinburgh, where things are not looking good at all, are they? I don't know whether we can do it, but we've got a heron of the day picture. This came in a bit earlier from David, who says, "At last, there's a great show to watch at 7 a.m. Ray Herongate. This was a heron that regularly visited our local municipal park pond. Then some bright spark decided to improve it in common parlance. It's now a weed-infested mess with zero open water, and the heron has sadly moved on." Yeah, well, that's what happens when you screw things up. Was it a Labour council by any chance? That was another fabulous show. Thank you so much to everybody for watching. Absolutely brilliant. Numbers, again, fantastic. Great comments, fantastic. So many of you enjoyed watching the orange sofa, the burnt orange sofa, as I should say. Good to see the pedants have kind of retreated as well. Not so many of you having a go at what we've got going on here, because the Mike Graham Show is going from strength to strength every single weekday morning from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. You don't want to miss it. Tell all your friends. Go and join the Substack as well, because coming up after this show is the after show every single day, exclusive to Substack subscribers. And basically today we're going to be talking about veterans. We've got Hugh Andre from We Served and another special guest as well called Ed McFarlane, who's a former military man too. We're going to find out exactly what We Served is doing for our military community, because the government sure as hell don't care much about them. This, of course, has been yet another Mike Graham Show production. Thanks to Pooch, thanks to Charlotte for setting it all up. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening. And as ever, remember, even though there's an awful lot of it about, do not be a plank.
Remember, despite all of the others out there, it's always the others. Don't be a plank.